Good afternoon, and this is a special notice from the Paramount City Hall Council Chambers pursuant to Executive Order N-29-20 executed by the Governor of California on March 17, 2020, and as a response to mitigating the spread of coronavirus, known as COVID-19. The meeting of the City Council scheduled for today, Tuesday, March 16, 2021 at 5 p.m. will allow members of the public to participate and address the City Council during the open session of the meeting via live stream and or teleconference only. And we will now turn it over to Mayor Peggy Lemons to start the meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moreno. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo,
Here.
Councilmember Guillen,
Here.
Councilmember Quer Stallings,
Here.
Vice Mayor Olmos,
Here.
Mayor Lemons.
Here. Okay, City Council public comment updates.
Yes, Madam Mayor. My mic there. Yes, Madam Mayor. We had a number of public comment updates from the March 2nd City Council meeting. The first one is from Mr. Gerald Serta, and he requested some instructions from city staff to reopen an appeal through the LA Superior Court for a parking citation that he had received. We advised Mr. Serta that we cannot provide him legal advice on his citation. However, we did contact the court on his behalf and requested information about the process for filing a court action for a parking citation, and we relayed that information to him. Next was Mr. Robert Blankenship, and he was asking for the city to support local community members for his proposed alternative restoration plan for the section of the Lower LA River that abuts Paramount. Public Works staff will be reviewing Mr. Blankenship's proposal and will contact him for follow-up. Next up was Mr. Jaime Lopez, and Mr. Lopez had two requests or concerns. The first one was he would like the city to implement a community-based forum to enable increased public participation in environmental issues. City staff has already been researching this matter, and we plan to present to the City Council a recommendation at a future meeting, likely in April. The next concern that request that Mr. Lopez had was an update on the Unity in the Community discussions. The follow-up to that was in November 2020. The Unity in the Community Committee made progress in planning its next community discussion, and that was going to take place at the start of 2021. And the focus would be on youth and young adults. But as we know, we all experienced a spike in COVID-19 cases here in LA County, and that caused everything to shut down pretty much. And therefore, the committee was unable to finish planning the logistics for this meeting. And therefore, staff is monitoring the county health order mandates. And as we all have seen this week, things are starting to open up a little bit, so that's great news. And we do have a committee planning meeting next week with the committee. So we hope to then restart the discussions for the next talk. And again, that would be on youth and young adults. The next resident who spoke to the council wanted information on the current status and location of the air quality air monitors. And I personally contacted Mr. De Leon following the meeting to provide him the same update that was provided to the council, and that is outlined above the document that's including with your agenda packet tonight. The next resident that spoke on the same issue was Mr. Adrian Alvarez and Ms. Sonia De Leon. They are requesting that the City Council support efforts to end discrimination against intellectual and developmental disabilities by signing up to take the pledge, Spread the Word, Inclusion. Staff has reviewed the mission statement of this effort and forwarded the information to the City Council for their individual consideration. I'd like to note that at that meeting, Mayor and Council, I did mention that Ms. De Leon was emailed some information about a budgetary amount that was placed in this current fiscal year's budget. I needed to clarify that unfortunately, I apologize, that did not happen that day. It did happen today. However, Ms. De Leon was given an explanation because that was another part of her email, was a request on how much money the city will be providing this year to developmental disabled programs. So that now has that email now has been delivered to Ms. De Leon for that purpose. The next person that spoke to the council was Maria Paz, and she expressed concern that the city has issued parking citations and reporting delinquencies to the DMV. She also reported that the citation appeals information be made available in Spanish. As a result, staff contacted Ms. Paz about her parking citation and explain how and why unpaid citations are sent to the DMV. And this is actually a long-standing practice that we've had. We also informed her that information forms are available in Spanish and at the sheriff's station. Additionally, bilingual staff are available at the sheriff's station front counter to talk about citation appeals with our residents. While the appeals instructions on the back of the citation are in English only, and that's due to limited space, we will be adding a line in Spanish that directs people to the city's website for appeals information, and they can go on to that. The next speaker was Mr. Rodolfo Cortez Barragan, and Mr. Cortez Barragan had 3 issues. The first one he wanted to know why the parking subcommittee cannot meet virtually. We have covered this before in the past, and prior to the latest COVID health order issued in November, staff considered the feasibility of holding a meeting of the parking subcommittee under social distance requirements. However, we determined that shifting to a virtual format would not be as effective as in-person meetings for a number of reasons, namely that a virtual meeting cannot necessarily achieve the same level of engagement with residents that an in-person meeting can. As I mentioned earlier, we will continue to monitor health orders, and it seems like in-person meetings, we're hoping, are right around the corner. The next issue that Mr. Cortez Barragan has is he wants the city to close down factories in Paramount to address environmental concerns. As a follow-up to this, under current law, the city does not have any authority to shut down private businesses for environmental concerns. Any such action would require an act by a federal, state, or a regional agency in response to an environmental violation. The last issue that Mr. Cortez Barragan had, he wants to know if the water quality in Paramount is healthy. In response to that, the city of Paramount has its water tested by independent labs on a regular basis to make sure that there are no impurities or dangerous levels of contaminants in the supply delivered to customers. One of the city's most important and serious duties is providing safe, clean water to its residents, and that will never change. Paramount's water has always been and will continue to be completely safe for any use. Currently, the water quality in Paramount meets or exceeds state and federal water standards. And that concludes the updates. Madam Mayor, happy to answer questions.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a comment after a couple of the calls from the last meeting regarding the citations. I asked a few questions myself. Although I've paid my share of parking tickets in this city, I'm one of those ones that keeps forgetting to move in on Monday night. I didn't know if financial reasons, which was one of the callers' issues, was a reason for, appealing, and it is. So just for the public to know, if there is a financial reason you're out of work with COVID happening, of course, or other reasons, that is a reason for the appeals process. And that the information for the appeals was on the back of the ticket. I didn't know that. And then just to clarify, you said you're going to add a line in Spanish referring them to the city's website, and that will be in Spanish for the appeals? Is that what you're saying?
So correct. So they can go to the website, and there is a translation button that'll translate whatever you see on the website. So we'll have instructions on where to go. Also, we'll also have a telephone number too as well that they can call.
And then, just as a point of information too, I had spoken to one of the members of the Unity and the Community Committee just to see, how are they doing, how things are progressing. They stated the same things that you just said here, but they also said that they're in the process of doing a video sharing program. They talked about some of the details about, as we all know, racism usually stems from ignorance and people not knowing each other, understanding people's cultures and stuff. They're going to focus on something like that, which I think is a tremendous idea. So even though they're not meeting, they're still brainstorming and working on this and trying to come up with ways to change the attitudes and minds of people that may or may not be in our community. So just sharing. Anybody else have anything before we move on? Okay. Public comments.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we do have a number of public comments for tonight, and Andrew Villalpando will start us off with the oral public comments.
Thank you, John, and good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening, we have 4 public commenters signed up to speak on general public comments. 1 signed up to speak specifically on item number 9, so we'll hold off on that one. 3 public comments via email. So as we've been doing of late, we'll get them on the line. One moment, please.
Hello,
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Alejandro Yanez.
this is him.
Hi, Mr. Yanez. We're calling regarding requests for public comment at this evening's City Council meeting. We have 3 minutes on the clock, which will start now.
Hello and good afternoon. I'm Alejandro Yanez, a resident for 48 years. Sorry about that. Growing up as I did in Paramount all those years, I recall having recreation of various types. As an adolescent, we had baseball. Soccer was frowned upon back then. We'd get chased off fields, getting called derogatory names. I'm sure some of you know the history. We had Hunt Fin Day at Louis Spain Park. Taught us how to fish, since the nearest ocean is 13 miles away. After fishing, we'd go back to baseball or football, or I can't say the other sport since I'm speaking on the agenda later. Ha, ha, ha. That was a joke. I don't have an attorney present. Unlike the city council, I don't have someone to represent me. I don't feel it's fair. The council has the amenities paid for with our tax dollars, and we, the residents, should be providing an attorney as well to represent us. City uses the attorney to try and intimidate residents when we are just trying to state our disagreements and unfair treatment by interrupting us when we are just trying to state the facts. Frankly, the discrimination from past and present council members. Council members, this is not a court of law. I did not use disparaging comments in my last public comments meeting. I did not name a staff member nor a position of any person working for the city, as that would be against Section F, Rule 3 of the Rules of Decorum for public meetings in the city of Paramount. What I wanted to state by name is the 5 white council members, 1 current council members, as well as a few staff discriminated against us residents, which I plan to cover when the agenda comes up later. Thank you. Hello?
Hi, this is the City of Paramount calling for Gerald Serta.
Yes, this is Gerald Serta.
Hi, Mr. Serta. We're calling regarding your request for public comment at this evening's Paramount City Council meeting. We have 3 minutes on the clock, and your time will start now.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, fellow citizens. I would like to request that city officials work with South Coast Air Quality Management on reinstalling air monitors around the city to continue monitoring air quality. The city is only 4.8 square miles, yet air quality has been horrible with high toxins that have been found to be harmful to some residents with health concerns. Also, some companies seem to put profit first over health concerns. And as you know, I've been involved with some of the city council meetings for some time, advocating. I have been involved for the following, either to improve or correct some hazards, which was the street lights that are not working, which is a safety concern. The crosswalk on Alondra and Passage, which we've known was fatal to a resident. The parking alternatives with the lot from Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. I mentioned the predatory citations. I've been requesting the air monitors and also the dog parks. Some of these concerns have been brought up to the city council meeting, but you always get a no. We can't do this. We talk. There's always some type of bureaucracy, red tape that seems to take place, and it always gets shut down. And it seems like that's happening with other residents as well. And this is a pattern that Paramount officials, the city managers, are trying to suppress either residents from participating with these meetings or providing input, suggestions to improve the city. It's always a no, we can't do this, no, we can't do that, some type of red tape. And I would like to make a request is maybe the city manager, assisting city manager, the attorney, maybe some of these directors need to be residents in the city of Paramount to take this a little bit more serious and work a little bit more hard in trying to work with the residents on getting some of these concerns addressed to improve the quality of life in the city of Paramount. As you know, we have some employees with the city that don't live in the city. They just come in, pick up a paycheck, and then they bounce and don't care about the air quality, the water, the streets, the safety. They say they do, but these concerns have been brought up time after time, and they keep happening. So that's one thing that I would like to
Mr.
request.
Cerna, you have 20 seconds left.
If we can look for employees, directors in these leadership positions that are residents to the city of Paramount so they can take this a little bit more serious and work with the residents to improve the quality of life here in Paramount. Thank you.
Hello?
Hello, this is the City of Paramount calling for Margaret Garcia.
Yes, this is she.
Hi, Ms. Garcia. We're calling regarding your request for public comment this evening at the Paramount City Council meeting. You're being broadcast live before the City Council. We allow 3 minutes for public commenters, and we'll go ahead and start the clock now.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is Margaret Garcia. I'm a longtime Paramount resident. I would like to publicly thank all 4 City Council members who voted in favor of City Ordinance 1149, which deals with food delivery service charges. Everyone knows that during this past year, our small business community, especially our restaurants, have been hit hard due to COVID restrictions. Most of our restaurants are family-owned with very small staff. Therefore, a 30% fee charge is a financial strain for some of them. Some of our family-owned restaurants have been serving our community for many years. During this past year, they have provided hot meals for our senior residents. Many of them financially support our PEP educational scholarship program, and they also support our local charities and city sport groups organizations. I am glad that our city council made the right choice by passing the ordinance 1149 by a 4-1 vote. It is nice to see a council that supports our restaurants and our local small business community. Our restaurants have always been here for us, and this ordinance is a great way of showing how we value having their business in our city. At the end of the day, it's not enough to simply eat or frequent our restaurants, but as a council member, you should be committed to supporting them in any way possible. After all, how you vote is where your heart is at. So this is why when choosing a mayor or vice mayor for the upcoming 2021-22 year, please consider choosing someone that is not just involved, but is committed to supporting our local small business community, such as our restaurants. Thank you and have a great evening.
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Lisa Lappin.
This is she.
Good evening. We're calling regarding your request for public comment at this evening's Paramount City Council meeting. You're being broadcast live to the City Council, and we'll put 3 minutes on the clock, which will start now.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. I'm taking an unusual act of calling you because I think it is of paramount importance that AQMD return air monitors to nearby the 6 multi-million-dollar facilities working regularly with the highly toxic chemical hexavalent chromium. We learned from the environmental specialist hired by the city in 2016 that, quote, no particle is safe, unquote. Unfortunately, Los Angeles has an average of 0.05 to 0.08 nanograms per cubic meter. However, air monitors in Paramount have consistently been
Miss Lappin,
last year.
Miss Lappin, this is
Average, I'm sorry.
Miss Lappin. Can you hear us? This is
Can you
staff.
stop the clock, please?
Can you hold the clock, please?
We're having difficulty hearing you. Can you?
What?
We're having difficulty hearing you. It sounds as though you're speaking from a distance. Can you please get closer to your microphone and speak clearly? We'll go ahead and add time back to the timer.
Start the time over and I'll start over. Do you want to call me back on my other phone?
No.
She's fine now,
You're
so
fine now.
I think she's moving away.
Okay, it's important what I have to say.
We heard everything for about 45 seconds worth, so we can start the time at 2:15 if the mayor is okay with that.
And if she stays where she is now, we hear her
Yeah, and if
fine.
you stay where you're at right now, we should be able to hear you just fine.
Perfect, thank you. I'm taking the act of calling you because I think it's of such importance that AQMD return the monitors to nearby the 6 multi-million-dollar facilities working with the highly toxic chemical hexavalent chromium. We learned from the environmental specialist hired in 2016 that no particle is safe. Unfortunately, LA has an average of 0.05 to 0.08 nanograms per cubic meter. However, the air monitors in Paramount have consistently been much higher. Just last year, monitor 23 averaged 0.60, which is nearly 10 times higher than most other cities. And this monitor is near a preschool. Even with rulemaking and the best of intentions, equipment failure could potentially result in fugitive emissions that might go undetected without monitors permanently in place. As we know, in 2016, Aerocraft and Anaplex were found to be emitting 350 times above normal, were temporarily shut down multiple times until their emissions were brought within safer levels. Now, there is not even one monitor anywhere in the city of Paramount checking to make sure that chromium-6 does not escape accidentally from any of these 6 companies working with this potentially deadly chemical. Carlton Forge, Weber Metal, Matco, Press Forge, Aerocraft, and Anaplex all use this chemical, and many of them near schools, homes, and parks. Source tests on the AQMD website show just one tank inside Weber Metal contains 24,500 nanograms per cubic meter. That's not escaping into the community, but if there were an accident, if there were a failure, we wouldn't know because there is no odor. It is the responsibility of AQMD, the city of Paramount, to make sure there are at least a few monitors in the areas where these companies are located. If there were any accident, responsibility would fall on your shoulders, AQMD, and the company. Without any odor, we would never know if the levels again rise to dangerous levels. I implore you to act in unison and write a letter to AQMD's board asking the return into immediate operation at least the 5 monitors purchased by the city in the industrial areas where these companies
Ms.
are
Lappin,
known.
you have 20 seconds left.
Many near schools, homes, and parks. If Mayor Lemons and Vice Mayor Olmos were to negotiate an arrangement for these companies to reimburse AQMD for the cost of running regular testing, it would be a win-win for everyone, including the industry, the council members,
Ms.
the
Lappin,
mayor.
your time is now
Most
up.
importantly, let me finish my sentence, please. And most importantly, the community. Thank you for considering my concerns. Bye.
Thank you. John, just a couple of points of clarification there. The statement was made there are no monitors. I thought you reported at the last meeting there is one.
Yes,
correct?
according to AQMD, there is one monitor behind Kindred Hospital, just across the street from
And
us.
this isn't an issue of money. This is an issue of the AQMD saying until they
feel
do
it's
their
safe
own
for-
decisions with restrictions because of COVID.
Correct.
So we're anxious to have the monitors back. We
Absolutely,
stay in
and-
touch with the AQMD to put the monitors back. This isn't a case of money. It's a case of the decision of the AQMD with protocol for COVID.
That's correct. And I did email the number 2 person at AQMD last week, and she has mentioned that she will, in an email reply back to me, that she will have hopefully a report by mid this week. So I'm expecting either tomorrow or Thursday an answer as to whether or not when the monitors will be coming back. So once
And
I
they
get
pulled
their
them
report-
because they have to be read in person. They can't be read remotely, and they're not sending personnel out right now.
That is correct.
But we are definitely lobbying for them to
Absolutely.
move this process along.
100%.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Is it possible, even though, John, I know you're working with emails, that the mayor, could send a letter stating, what, we know that John Moran, our city manager is working on it, but we'd like to have a letter in writing sent to the AQMD requesting this?
Absolutely, no problem with me.
Great, we'll do that. We will craft a letter. Madam Mayor, we just have one other, that was it for the oral public comments, and now we'll move over to the emailed public comments. We have 3 of those in our
Heidi,
city clerk, Heidi.
before you move on, just I'm sorry, I also wanted to clarify a couple other items because I don't know if I may have some of the information wrong or if the caller hasn't heard some council meetings. So just 3 really quick points. One would be regarding the parking, and is it the PUC or DWP that we've been lobbying
It was the Department of Water Power, the
Okay.
DWP.
And we did secure a lobbyist, right?
We did.
Who tried to get them to see our point and let us use that land that we do see is available in neighborhoods. And my understanding was they just said no.
At this point, they are saying no for a 2-year period.
A 2-year
froze-
period.
Yeah, they froze all of the requests for use of their real estate for 2 years.
Okay, so it is something we're definitely interested in doing.
Absolutely.
We put even a professional in there to speak their language and hopefully move that process along. So it's not ignored, it's not forgotten. It's stalled by the department themselves who are not willing to hear that right now.
And if I can add, Madam Mayor, too, we already drafted plans for the parking lot, if I'm not mistaken, Adriana?
Yes, John, we actually have drafted conceptual plans.
Right.
We were getting ready to send them when DWP said they're actually reviewing existing leases and they're not taking any applications for new leases.
So when they gave us the 2-year line, how long ago has that been?
That was last summer. Actually,
Oh.
I'm sorry, September.
Was that pre-COVID?
That was during COVID.
Oh, well, so good, then it shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
change because it's been in that process. The other thing was the traffic light issue at Passage and Alondra. I thought I remember a study was done.
We did.
That came back and said a traffic light was warranted there, so we're ready and willing to put one in. We're seeking a funding source.
That is correct. We
Is that
have a
correct?
grant application in with the state of California, and we should be hearing about that any month now?
That's correct. Yeah, we did submit it as part of the Highway Safety Improvement Plan through Caltrans, and we're waiting on notification,
Right.
hopefully within the next month.
Yeah, a month or so.
Okay, and then the other issue I think was regarding AQMD, which I think we've answered from the previous
Yes.
caller. So just in real important, in case you missed those meetings, caller, where those decisions were made and reports were given to the council, we don't want you to think that anything that you bring to us is ignored. We are dealing with it. We've had some answers. Some things are in process. Some things are going to happen. But the desire to improve never goes away. So the lighting, as we said, the traffic light, which was brought to our attention by the residents, has been approved by the city engineer. It's something that we want to see happen, and we're stalled by DWP on the land use for the parking in the neighborhoods, but we will continue to work towards those efforts. Thank you. Let's go to the emails.
Thank you. And just to clarify, we have 2 public comments in writing for general subjects, plus I just received another one via email, so that'll make 3 written public comments. And then there's 1 additional public comment that is for item 12.
12. So I know we had a speaker for 12, so there's a written and a speaker. Oh, no,
The
9 we
speaker
had
is
a
number
speaker
9.
for, right?
That is
9.
correct. The speaker is
9.
for number
And
9.
now we have a written one for 12.
That is correct.
Okay.
Thank you. The first public comment written is from Sonia De Leon. Good evening, council members and members of the public. On March 12, 2021, Mr. Moreno stated that he had emailed me a response to my public comment during the city council meeting, but I have yet to receive it. I also challenged the city council to take the pledge, Spread the Word Inclusion, at www.spreadtheword.global and tell us, residents, how you will spread inclusion in our community. We are excitingly waiting for your responses, especially when the month of March is known for Disability History and Awareness Month. Respectfully, Sonia De Leon.
Do we have any information, like does our email process have one of those verifications? I know they have systems set up where you can verify that somebody opened an email. Do we have that kind of situation with our email process?
We do. In this case, Ms. De Leon is correct. I reported earlier that at the last meeting, I reported that we did send her an email. That email, unfortunately, did not go out that day, but it did go out today. So
Okay, so as far as we know, she got it today.
I'm hoping she got it today. We can check.
Yeah, could you do a follow-up call?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The next public comment is from Public Safety Commissioner Rosemary Mendez. I would like to compliment our Director of Parks and Recreation, David Johnson, and his staff for organizing a flawless COVID-19 vaccination clinic on Friday, February 26th. Upon arriving at Paramount Park, there was no line to check in with our city staff. After I received my vaccine, we were ushered to a socially distanced waiting room where we were supervised by a nurse for any adverse reactions to the vaccine. Thank you once again for providing residents with this well-organized vaccine clinic. And then the final comment for general items is from Cynthia Morales, and she is the Senior Field Deputy covering Paramount for Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard. Good evening, Mayor Peggy Lemons, honorable city council members, city staff, and attendees. My name is Cynthia Morales, and I am Senior Field Deputy for Congresswoman Lucille Roybal Allard. Our office assists constituents in the 40th Congressional District who may need assistance with federal agencies such as, but not limited to, United States Postal Service, USCIS, Veterans Affairs, Social Security, and the IRS. I am also pleased to share with you information on the 28th annual Lucille Roybal Allard Student Art Competition. This is the wonderful opportunity for our young artists to share their talents with the community. The winning entry will represent the 40th Congressional District in the national exhibit at the U.S. Capitol for 1 year. Visitors from all over the world will have an opportunity to admire the exhibit showcasing our community's gifted young artists. Please know we have shared this information with the schools and we look forward to a good showing from Paramount students. In addition, the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, VA Greater Los Angeles Healthcare System, is now offering COVID-19 vaccines to veterans of all ages. Please call 310-268-4900 to make an appointment. If you have any questions or would like further information, please contact our office at 323-721-8790. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Cynthia Morales. That concludes the comments.
Thank you, Heidi. At this time, we have a proclamation and an introduction. Good evening. We have two separate presentations to bring to you tonight. One, March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the United States, and we are recognizing it here in Paramount. This highlights the many ways that people with and without disabilities come together to form strong, diverse communities. It raises awareness about the inclusion of people with these disabilities in all areas of life and points out the barriers that such folks still sometimes face in connecting to the larger community. About one in six children are identified as having a developmental disability. These individuals can usually live normal lives and achieve their dreams as long as they have the proper support. In Paramount, we have reached out to our special needs families and helped them form a relationship with the Special Olympics Southern California organization. This will create opportunities for their special needs family members. We will be sending our proclamation, which is pictured on the screen, to the Special Olympics. Next, the Paramount Youth Commission is made up of 16 volunteer members. These are students in 9th through 12th grade who either go to Paramount High School or are residents that attend non-PUSD schools. The commission provides a voice for these young people to express their concerns in the city, learn about programs and services, and foster a sense of community spirit. The newest commission was recently formed. Tonight, we want to meet the Youth Commission Chair, Bella Archuleta, who is a junior at the Odyssey STEM Academy, and also Vice Chair Alyssa Bravo, a sophomore at Paramount High School. They are joining us on Zoom. Congratulations. You want to say a few words?
Yes, hi, I'm Bella. I am the chair of the Youth Commission, and I would like to thank you for having us today, and I hope we can do great things for the youth in our community. I'm looking forward to it.
Hi, I'm also Alyssa Bravo, and thank you for having us both on here.
Thank you for joining us tonight, ladies, and we wish you the best, and we're so pleased to have you aboard as our newest youth commissioners. Congratulations. Next, we have old business, a receive and file.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this first item is actually could be considered session 2 of the one-year review of the home garden ordinance. The ordinance was originally passed by the City Council in December of 2019. The City Council then requested a one-year review. We presented this to you a few months ago. The City Council directed staff to go back and refine and narrow our recommendations, which we've done, and we're now bringing it back to you for discussion. If the council likes what you hear, we will then develop it into an ordinance for the Planning Commission to review and comment, and then they will recommend their action to the City Council, and then it'll come back to you for final approval. So with that, we will turn it over to our Assistant Planning Director, Mr. John King, who will go over the item. John?
Thank you. Try to speak up here. Mayor Lemons and council members, thanks for having me back. It's a joy to be here. Again, as Mr. Moreno said, this is a follow-up to our December report, and you asked for us to fine-tune. I think it was a little open-ended, so we did that. We put together some tighter proposals or recommendations, and with your guidance, we could pass it on to the Planning Commission and then come back to you another time. And I'm just going back a little more, November 2019, you approved, or the City Council adopted this ordinance with a request to come back in a year, so that's what we did. And the idea then was to kind of see how it goes. You never know what's going to happen, so we wanted to test the waters, see if there are any, who knows, whatever kind of issues could come up, we wanted to review those. And as far as we know, there have been no issues, no code enforcement cases or anything no neighborhood disputes or anything like that. So yeah, so far so good. So that's why we're back. And with as Mr. Moreno mentioned, whatever comments you might have, we'll pass it on to the Planning Commission and bring it back. Gardening, we're all probably more into gardening this last year. It's one of the those home things that makes us a little happier. List of great things. It gives us access to fresh food. It contributes to open space, community resilience, healthy food, of course, and less reliance on those chemicals. You get at a lot of markets, and it's fun. We'll enjoy fun social activities, whether it's just with your household, or just doing it by yourself. It's up to you. And combating food insecurity, we think even more so. That's a big thing. There was a report from USD, and here's just the cover sheet. Last year, during the middle of the pandemic, the bottom line is there's some graphs of how food insecurity went up, which is hunger. Overall, 39.5% of low-income households experienced food insecurity sometime between April and May, and you could just kind of continue in your minds through the year how that may have even worsened. We had some great events here to distribute food with some help that we were lucky to be a part of. But this is another element. Next month or soon we'll have a follow-up on community gardens in general. But here we're looking at residences again. 2019, you approved to allow planter boxes. Again, this is we've always allowed gardens, of course, but we're talking about edible gardens or fruits, vegetables, herbs. You required them in the front yards to be in these raised planter boxes, but you did say in the R1 zone. So R1 is the designation for a single-family zone. Those are the parts of town where it's basically one house per property, typically, that they would not be allowed. That was the exception. So you approved raised garden beds in the front and side yards in the R2 and the RM zone. So R2 is medium density residential. That's a lot of the residential areas R2. That means, as kind of what it sounds like, typically two houses, a front and a back, are allowed. RM, the M is multiple, so multiple family. Usually those are the areas with more apartments. And also you allowed them in non-conforming residential uses in commercial and industrial zones, which is that means legal non-conforming, means grandfathered in. You might hear, we have a few homes on Paramount Boulevard, although Paramount Boulevard is typically for businesses. There's a few houses that have been there forever. So these are allowed on Paramount Boulevard in those houses. And as you know, in our industrial, we have an industrial area or manufacturing area. We think there's about 180 homes in that area. City Council determined it's okay there. You put in some regulations for maximum height and maintenance, of course. Talk about crops. There could be some issues, so we included some preventative measures in there. And also, so area, there was a maximum of 24 square feet. So you can imagine, what's that? Six by 4. I'm more or less 6 feet tall, 4 feet out this way. That's about the size of what's allowed on a property. And this diagram shows more or less what that would look like, that little purple box. So here's a slide with a summary of what we're recommending this evening. I'm going to go through each one of these, and then we'll go back to the summary, and obviously for your input. So we're recommending, kind of talked about this in December, hoop houses. It's basically like a greenhouse, but has a hoop. It has a hoop shape to it. So that, just a minor little add-on. Courtyards and windowsills. I'm sure a lot of us have had a little pot on a windowsill. So this just puts into the code. It's a way to encourage. It's making a statement for the city. R2 and RM zone. So maybe the possibility of also expanding from there into that single family area, and also PDPS. PDPS stands for Plan Development with Performance Standards. Those are some of the newer, I guess you could say, housing developments in town that you've approved, like on Somerset, across from the post office, on Somerset and Texaco, that's a PDPS zone. Around Home Depot, the houses behind Home Depot, that's a PDPS zone. So right now, they're technically not allowed. So we're recommending for equity, just to make it across the board possibility. Also, maybe ground level gardens. So we're looking at, we kind of thought about this a lot. And what we came up with is a 15 feet area. So the first 15 feet of a property. So you have a street, you have a sidewalk, then the private property starts. So the first 15 feet, which is about the length of a car, you'd still have to have the raised gardens, but then beyond that, maybe some allowing to be grown at the surface level the dirt, the soil. And then perhaps allowing an extra 2 feet in height. Beans, I think beans are the most popular grower that tends to need a little more height. And composting, encouraging garden compost we don't want to include requirements to make sure there's no issues with visibility and vermin and odor. Here's a photo of a hoop house. There's a little graphic, courtesy of the BBC, of a windowsill growth. So that seems like an easy one. On the left is a map. This is our zoning map. This is what we deal with in the planning department. The blue area is the industrial area. So the orangish and the yellowish areas, those are homes. That's where the different designations are. On the right is the kind of the legend. So the circled areas are and it's kind of a lot of information, but you can see at the top says R1 single family residential. It's the yellowish color. There's a lot of that area in Paramount. Right now, it would not be technically not be allowed to have a raised planter with an edible garden in these zones. So this proposal would extend what's allowed in the R2 and RM to the R1 zone. And that little 24 square foot planter box, we're proposing to expand that, more or less double that, or a little over double the size, to 50 square feet. So it's a larger purple box on the right there. And again, the possibility of ground level plantings after the first 15 feet. So this graphic here kind of shows that. So you see the first 15 feet, raised planters only. And if somebody wants to have raised planters beyond that for the back, that's fine, but there could be an option to have them in the ground. Here's another graphic, same thing. It's just showing I like to credit one of the planning interns, Christian Santana, for putting this together. So here you can see at the front, a raised garden on the front part of the property, about the length of a car, and beyond that, I think those are beans growing up. And then a net gain, again, of 2 feet for the height. So on the left is a diagram showing a planter, and then you have the top of the planter. Well, then right now, by today's rules, the maximum is 3 feet. Well, possibly extending that to 5 feet. And then composting, and there it is. Of course, kind of requirements to control odor, visibility, infestation. And I just want to give a little time frame. This is where we are. We did December was a combined, we had one meeting in December, so it was a combined regular city council meeting and study session. But when you discussed it, it really was a study session where you really get deeply into regulations. So you had that broad discussion. And so we're back. This is another study session, the second one. And again, it goes to the Planning Commission, ideally next month. With your feedback, we could incorporate whatever you think this should be changed. We'll take it to the Planning Commission and then bring it back to you again. By the way, Planning Commission, that's by state law. We always take these to the Planning Commission. Every city has to have zoning regulations go through their Planning Commission. City Council, and then back to be introduced, and then back for the adoption. And this is all tentative. If you need more time, that could happen. So back to the summary. This is everything all on one slide. Want to come back to that, but just the recommendation is to receive and file. Again, any input. If you think 5 feet is too high, just let us know. You could, with consensus, we could alter that. But I'll leave it here on the summary slide and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, John. Questions, comments?
Thank you,
Vice
Madam
Mayor.
Mayor. I remember when you brought this to us the first time, we kind of were going back and forth, and I think we all had ideas, and we were talking about some of our concerns. I remember that one of our concerns was the feet. We were talking that we didn't want to go too high in the front of a house because in case people were going to do corn or higher trees, we didn't want that to be in the front. I think we talked about them allowing it to be on the side of their house. So are we saying here that we're allowing 5 feet to be in front of their house?
At this, in the graphics, it's showing in front of the house after the first 15 feet. But if you want to, tweak that at all, leave it at 3 feet or any way you want to hone that in, that's fine.
Did you, somebody
I
else
have a question. I know that in the planning department, if you make a wall on the side of your house, you're only entitled so many feet, and then when you get to, say, where the house property begins, then it goes down lower feet.
That's right.
That's correct.
Front.
So my concern is if we put it by the wall and you have 5 feet, isn't that against the other ordinance? I mean, I'm just giving you an example. My daughter used to grow, but she lived in another city, sunflower plants. And then her neighbor was complaining that it was over 5 feet. So she had to tear down her sunflower plants. So I don't want any of our residents having those types of issues, tomato plants, corn stalk, those type of plants growing. And then the size of a car you can put in front of your front yard, I think that's quite large to me. I'm kind of concerned about that. I think it may be a little bit smaller than that. If you,
along that same line, just bringing up front yards period, I remember discussions, and I don't remember if they took here or when you questioned us for our ideas, but about not having them in the front yards unless they didn't have space in the backyard. We didn't want to prevent anybody, from having the opportunity to garden, but because they do present different issues, that if there was space in their backyard, that they would have to put it there. And I remember even talking about a permit. If they wanted to put it in the front, we would make it no cost. So there's nothing to do. It's just that if you want to put it in the front, we need to make sure you don't have adequate space in the backyard, because I think to prevent a lot of the issues that go with gardens, and I'm very familiar, my father had huge gardens my whole life growing up, so that we keep that to the backyard and keep the houses aesthetically pleasing in the front, which has everything to do with how your neighbors feel as well as your property values and everything else, unless you don't have any options. So I remember that discussion too, about it just not being in the front unless they had absolutely no choice.
I do recall that in 2019.
Yeah, so I didn't see that here.
Yeah, not in this proposal, but it's easily done. I mean, we do I guess we're good at no fee permits, not charging for fees for residents.
Yeah,
it's
we
easy
do them
enough
for
to put
yard sales and stuff like
Yes,
that,
yeah.
so that everybody can. So, I mean, that would deal with the height issue because but you still have to for those few, we would hope, but we'd have to see, which is why we review it often, ones that would need to go in the front yard. But I agree, I think 5 feet's really tall. Again, I think it's really important that we maintain, as much as we can, the integrity of the neighborhoods, the single-family neighborhoods. And so it seemed like a good compromise that if you don't have any space in your backyard and you absolutely can't do it, then okay, we'll make this allowance, come in and get a permit so we can verify that you absolutely can't do it in your backyard. But I would be in favor of that too. I don't think they should be in the front unless it's necessary in the single-family residential, and I do think that there should be a height limit. Those are my comments. Anything from you?
Yeah, no, definitely the height limit. I know, I'm familiar with, the rest of you. I mean, my grandfather for a long time had actually, took care of one of the community gardens. He loved to grow corn, and those things are massive. But the thing is that we do need to take into consideration, again, the other issues with like the walls. So there needs to be proportioned to what's already in place. So we need to take that into consideration. And the other thing that, as far as the height, and I'm completely in favor of, growing, your own fruits and vegetables, but then there's also a visibility issue that may come into place when we have a lot of this, you know, in the front. And as much as I'd love to say, like, you know, I mean, it'd be great in the front yards, but again, there are, you know, maybe that's a factor that we hadn't really considered, the visibility into, you know, I mean, you know, I mean, in cases of emergencies or that type of thing.
Just to help with your discussions, the current height limit for front yard fencing is 42 inches. In to get a little deeper into it, in the R1 and the R2 zones, which is most of the housing in Paramount, it's the first 20 feet. In the RM zone, which is multiple family, it's the first 15 feet. You can go no higher than 42 inches. So just for background.
No, I do have something else. Now, the issue with like the planters, there are a lot of homes that already have, you know, those planters, but they're at level. You know, so maybe somehow addressing that, like I say, you know, that if they're already there.
In the rear or front yard?
Well, some of them are in the front. Like they have like, you know, I mean, I don't know, flowers in them right now, but if they decide, the resident decides that maybe they want to, I don't know, instead of flowers, put, I don't know, zucchinis or something that's low to the ground, maybe it's something that we should also consider. If they're already there, and most of those planters are not in the front of the property, so the 15 feet rule is kind of already there in some of those, because if you drive down through some of the neighborhoods, you will see those low planters that have already been in place for years.
Yeah, I don't have any problem, of course, with their planters already being there, but garden vegetation grows a lot different than landscaping does.
Yeah.
And so that's my issue with it. Like I said, I am really familiar. My dad had huge gardens. I don't think there was a vegetable that I haven't eaten off the vine, you know, or a fruit. So it's just, like I said, maintaining the integrity there, but still allowing it. I think, like I said, you know, your backyards. I also had, while we're on this subject a little bit, I was a little bit concerned, what's it called, a hoop house?
Hoop house, yes.
Yeah, those look really cool and stuff, but I was just wondering, because I know that there are also people that don't have the advantage or disadvantage. I guess it depends on your own preference of having a fence between them and their neighbor's backyard, and you know, it's either a picket fence they can see straight through, or there isn't one at all. That one's really attractive, but when I was reading the building code type stuff for it, it was just like PVC with plastic over it. You know, they can't just throw a nasty piece of plastic over, can they, some PVC pipe, and then, you know, you're out in your backyard and you have to visualize that. Are there standards for it? Because I know we have standards for, what is it, umbrellas that are in your backyard? I'm pretty sure.
Pop-up tarps.
Yeah,
yes.
there's certain ones that you can have and that you can have. So I think that needs to be pared down to maybe some kind of standard to where, you know, somebody just, like I said, can't throw some PVC out there and throw, you know, some plastic over it, or a tarp, a plastic tarp of some kind, because there's a big difference between looking at a big blue tarp or this clear, attractive piece that you've showed us. So maybe just so that we don't get into issues without, there should be some standards of what you can use to build the hoop house. I know it's much less expensive than a greenhouse, so it's a great idea, but again, not everybody has the protection of a fence or something, you know, from their neighbors.
I know you're aware of this, but just for anyone just tuning in this evening, it would only, hoop houses and greenhouses would only be allowed in the rear yard.
No, I understand
Yeah,
that,
I know
but
you
that's
do.
what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. I mean, I don't know, a lot of people spend a lot of time in their backyard, especially if they're, you know, lucky enough to have a pool. Yeah, I'm looking at you, lucky enough to have a pool, you know, and so you know, you spend a big investment, you know. Pools are tens of thousands of dollars, and the greenery that you surround it with, or if you're like me and you just have a patio, you know, I don't want to look back at junk. You know, that's my sanctuary back there too. So that's what I'm saying, just some kind of standard to where it's built nicely and maintained nicely. We have, you know, like banners and feather flags on the boulevard. They have to be maintained. So you just, you know, you have to keep it in good, you know, repair. Maybe the plastic has to be, you put in there that it can't be colored, you know, that it has to be clear. I would think it should be anyway, just to get the sunlight, but I don't know, I'm not a hoop gardener. and I don't have my dad's green thumb. Just things like that. I'm just thinking of some standards so somebody just doesn't throw some PVC out there and throw whatever they want over the top, and then, you know, you have to look at it. So, and if I understood right, this is not for us to approve tonight anyway. It's again to get feedback, and you take it back to planning.
That is correct. So in some cases, it really depends on what the issue is. Sometimes we just start with the planning commission and then have them work out the details and bring it to you. In this case, we thought it was really important to give it to you up front. Well, actually, it was in the ordinance.
Yeah.
To
Well,
bring
so
it to
that you can hear
specifically.
things like this, get more additional feedback.
Right.
And then it comes
Perhaps.
back to us again?
And it'll come back to you again.
Okay.
John, I have
Anybody offered up what they want to say then? Go ahead, Velma.
I have another question. I have a clay pot, you know, that's 3 feet tall and probably 36 inches wide. And I grow strawberries in that, you know, but I have it in my courtyard where it's not visible to everyone. And then in my backyard, you know, I have quite a few pine trees. And underneath, before my parents deceased, my dad planted watermelon seeds. And they still come up. I try to pick them out, but they still. But you know, my dad had a green thumb, and he loved it. So I leave it alone now. But I can imagine next door, you know, on my north side, I have a wrought iron fence. And if I had that watermelon patch growing out, I don't think my neighbor would like it too well. So,
I'll read what's already on the books for maintenance.
Okay.
It's just a couple sentences. Planting areas fallowed between growing seasons shall be covered with mulch or similar material, or otherwise maintained in clean condition until the next planting period. Weeds shall be promptly removed. Actions shall be taken to prevent and eliminate pests.
Okay.
That kind of might get to a lot of that.
Can we jump back to real quick to the composting? I know you said that it would have to be a container that contains odor. That wouldn't just be a trash can, would it? Or would it be? Just because I know composting, depending upon how often it's rotated, it can get really smelly.
Right, and you could have, you know, I have little nephews with their experiment with a container and
Yeah,
plastic.
yeah. My
Yeah,
dad
there's
used
all
to-
kinds.
The rottener the fruit was, the better, he said, his compost was, but it wasn't a pleasant experience to walk by. Yeah.
That might be a good, while we're talking, if you just want to think of if someone were, say your neighbor, to put a compost bin in their backyard next door to you, how many feet would you want it away from your side property line?
Yeah, stuff like that, and that it has to be kept covered and, you know, whatever. Because I liked that you worded that in there, odor and containment. And I think that's important too, because when the wind kicks up, if it's not properly maintained, it's not pleasant. Anybody else want to offer any further direction? They're going to take this back to the Planning Commission for them to do even some more hashing out, then it's going to come back to us, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add anything?
Just
Okay.
any composting be covered, even garden bed, composting covered.
Yeah. Whatever maintain, you know, that's the standard for containing the odor. I don't know, my dad used to pile it, just put it in a pile. Wasn't nice. Okay, all right, so that's a receive and file item. We accept as so. Thank you very much. Under new business, we have an oral report from SIACA, and we have the executive director, Denise Woodside, here from SIACA.
Yes, we do, Madam Mayor. With our new city council members, we're always looking for educational opportunities to showcase some of the services that we provide. One such service is animal control, and while we as a staff do not provide the service directly through the city staff, we're part of an agency that provides the service to our residents, and this agency is called the Southeast Area Animal Control Authority, or as we call it, SIACA. We've been a member of this agency for over 40 years. So as you said, Mayor, tonight we have a guest presenter, Ms. Denise Woodside, Executive Director of SIACA, and she will give us an overview of the services that SIACA provides to our community. Denise?
Try again. Good evening. My name is Denise Woodside, and I'm the Executive Director of SIACA Animal Control. And I brought with me tonight Donna Soriano, who is SIACA's Manager of Outreach and Community Development. What we have listed for you tonight is our mission, and I don't want to read it to you, but some of the items to focus on is that we care for those animals who are lost, abandoned, and are also looking for their families. SEACA will also adopt out animals to those who do not find their owners, but also we do encourage responsible pet ownership. Good evening, everyone. Hi, so today I'm going to talk about the different teams that we have at SEACA. We are 5 different teams currently at our location. We are located in the city of Downey, but we do service the city of Paramount, and we service additionally 13 other cities as well. We have the front office staff that assist our public and other agencies with any types of calls for service. They also will do adoptions. We're currently conducting our adoptions by appointment only. They are also assisting the public with reclaiming of their pets. And we are also taking calls for service over the phone to respond, for our officers to respond out in the field. We have our animal care technicians who facilitate the care of the animals at our care center. They also receive the animals that are coming into our care center. They feed them, they clean up after them, and they also monitor their health and report back to our veterinary staff. We have our veterinary care, of course. We have our doctors at our facility that monitor the well-being of the animals that come into our care center, whether it's an animal that came in injured, an animal that came in with any observations of concern for their health, and they monitor the well-being of them while they're at the care center as well. We have, that consists of also a clinic that they run at our facility Tuesday through Saturday. We have animal vet assistants, registered vet technicians who also monitor the animals while they're at our care. We have our licensing department, which provides services to our cities as far as providing licenses to the residents. For the city of Paramount, you can purchase a license at the care center as well as here at Paramount City Hall. And they also, you can come to our facility and bring the proof of rabies and get your vaccination there as well if needed. We have our field services as well that provide services for the city of Paramount. Some of you may recognize Connie. She had been an officer for the city of Paramount for many, many years. And she's still with our care center, and they care for the animals at our facility and respond to different types of calls for service. I wanted to share with you all SEACA's website. SEACA.org is our website, and on there you will find various information regarding our services, location, how to problem solve and troubleshoot different scenarios, and how to get in contact us if you need us. I do want to point out on the top right-hand corner, you'll see a few different buttons there, and those are some buttons that we encourage members of the community to use, including how to view our animals online when either looking to find their lost pet or looking to adopt a new pet. Also SEACA's newsroom and what to do if you lost or found a pet. So I'm in charge of our outreach and community development. As you guys can see, this is our Instagram page and our Facebook page. We're trying to connect with our community, so we do put out videos of the animals that are currently at our care center, or post of information that is occurring, that is the changes that we're making. As we're going through this pandemic as well, it has been a great source for us to be able to put out information to our community. A lot of people reach out and want to know through social media what's going on, and it has been a great way for us to be able to communicate with our community. This slide, we can show that our officers and some of our volunteers are a part of reaching out to our community. We do, with the pandemic, there has been change. We have now been scheduling to possibly do some virtual career days. It's not the same as you would see our officers we have always gone out to classrooms and try to educate our youth as well as other community organizations, because we want our community to understand animal control and the fact that we're trying to encourage responsible pet ownership. And we want the outreach goes to a lot of our children as well in our community, so going to schools are very important. As you can see, our executive director is with one of the students from the MAID program who we've collaborated with, and these are students from high school that are coming to do their internships and getting some community hours at our care center.
During the pandemic, we've had to make a number of changes. However, we've been fortunate enough to allow community members to visit the care center. And what we have here is actually a picture that represents what you would find on any day during our business hours for vaccination and licensing services. You can see the hours located off to the left of the screen, but also we've created an area that is a temporary setup that goes out every morning and is taken down every afternoon by SEACA staff, so that way we can safely distance those who are visiting the care center and still provide services. The two sets of tents that you see at the exterior of our building are leading to our outdoor vaccination clinic and then also our licensing services.
Continuing with the community outreach, we're currently doing Pets to Love, which promotes some of the animals in the on the news media, promoting them that we have available for adoption. It shows a picture of our pets, and it not only encourages them to come in and get that specific animal, but it allows us to promote adoption of any animal from an animal care center. This is in collaboration with multiple agencies that are surrounding the area, and we're always very excited to be able to highlight some of these pets. So we do it with several different news medias. I just got contacted for another outlet where we're going to start doing hopefully KTLA soon as well. So adoptions, fortunately with COVID-19, we still have had a huge support from our community as well as our adoption partners with life-saving and coming to our care center and wanting to come in and adopt a pet. Our adoptions are continuing to be facilitated by appointment only. It was a change for our clerks, and it has been a very successful change. We have been able to facilitate the adoptions at a very successful rate, and our reunifications with lost pets has also been very successful. We do have owners of these pets taking responsibility and coming in and having their pets even microchipped at times so that they can be reunified maybe even sooner the next time. Hopefully not, but it doesn't happen again. But that if that does happen, that their pet has a safer form of ID on them that cannot be removed.
One of the changes that we rapidly had to unfold as we were challenged with the pandemic was a way for members of the public in our communities to identify their pets and also empower them to look for their pets. So in doing so, we did add the I lost/found a pet button that is embedded on every page of SEACA's website. That button then takes website visitors to this page, which then gives different instructions as to what to do if you're looking for your pet. And on top of instructions and suggestions, we have some tools that are listed, such as microchip lookup systems. If you have a microchip number, some people will take the lost animal to a vet hospital and get it scanned. You can look up to see if that chip is registered. And then also we've made partnerships, One Bing Shadow app, which is an application that you can download on your cell phone. You can match an animal that you found or match an animal that you've lost
It'll digitally sort through photos and tell you this looks like an animal that you're missing or this looks like an animal that you found, and fast track that animal on the way on its way home, in hopes of reunifying that animal with its family as quickly as possible. There are other platforms out there that could be of support of finding lost pets. We do make the recommendation to try neighborhood applications, also social media to promote the word that their pet is missing. These are some photos from our adoption partners. We work with over 200 adoption partners that we work in collaboration with as far as giving them a reduced fee to pull animals from our care center, and that includes that they receive the intake vaccinations, they receive any medical concerns that the animal has had, any records that are records that we can provide them from our medical, we provide them. They take some of the animals that are overseen by some of our public and not pulled or taken, and they also take some of our severe medical animals that need that extra care that a public person may not be able to take on as a new pet coming into their family. They have been a huge support, and we work very closely together with them. We email them on the daily basis, multiple times a day. These are some of the photos of some of our pets that have found their home. A photo of our staff, one of our staff members actually releasing one of the animals. And they have worked with us through the changes that the pandemic has put upon us, and we continue to work together in getting animals pulled by them and adopted to new families. Go back one, please. Community kitten care. You may have personally encountered an orphan kitten or heard of someone who has encountered an orphan kitten. And also, you may hear or have heard of the term kitten season. Kitten season used to be during springtime, where you would see mommy cats either pregnant or having litters of kittens. At times, these kittens do become orphaned. And so what SEACA is offering to the community are kits for those kittens that are in fact orphaned. And the kits actually have resources in them, so that way the finder would be able to raise that kitten until it's 8 weeks of age. At 8 weeks of age, the finder then has the opportunity to bring in the cat to SEACA to be spayed or neutered, microchipped, and vaccinated through the Big Meow program, which I'll cover shortly. And they can either adopt that kitten, tell a friend to adopt that kitten, or they can bring it back to the care center where we will place the animal up for adoption and then place it in its home. Kitten care kits were generously given to SEACA through a community partner that we recently made, and we will be offering them at no cost to members of the community that live within SEACA service area. The Big Meow program has been an ongoing program that we've had since 2011, and it offers our residents within our 14 cities at no cost to spay and neuter and vaccinate, microchip their pets. And we used to have it over the phone where they would call and make an appointment. There has been a change where we can now facilitate it through email, where they can email us, and we, within 7 days, will return them a call, give them a call, and book an appointment for them. And it has been a successful program, and we have just reinstated it again to be able to provide these services for our residents. And we've had already several appointments booked, and it's a great resource for the community. And if you know anyone who has a cat, please tell them about the Big Meow program and have them email us. Pets for Troops is also an ongoing program. SEACA and the City of Paramount have joined to facilitate no-cost adoptions for those residents that live in the City of Paramount. that are either active or retired military members. With proof of their military status, the adoption would be at no cost to the adopter. SIACA does pay for half of the adoption, and the City of Paramount does pay for the other half. And this has been ongoing since 2017, and we are honored and privileged to continue to offer this program. SIACA is located at 9777 SIACA Street in the city of Downey. We are your neighbor. And so in the event that you do need to utilize our services, I do ask that you come down, whether it be vaccination services, licensing services, and also give us a call if we can assist with placing adoption holds, a service call for your city, or if you have any general questions. That concludes our presentation for tonight. My name is Denise Woodside, and this is Donna Soriano. We will happily take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Denise. I was marking off the different programs you covered as you were going through, and there's just two more before I open it up for questions from the council. I don't know with COVID if you're still doing it, and if not, do we plan to go back to it? But the small dog transfers to other states for those that don't have it, as well as the TV appearances?
Yeah, those are two really great questions. You're right that COVID has kind of put a wrench in those items. But two things. One is with the transfers. Interesting enough, with COVID-19, a lot of people are spending time at home. And not just at SIACA, but nationwide, the trend is that there are way less animals entering care centers. And those animals that are at home are receiving probably the best care and the highest amount of attention that we've ever seen. So it's actually been an industry change. We are always receptive to community partners, whether they be a local partner or a distant partner. However, you have to have the animals to transport. And we've been fortunate enough that our immediate community has been able to assist with any immediate transporting or adopting. Also with news and media, what we've been able to do is send over pictures and videos to have them shared on our behalf. So you're still getting the content that would be shared. It's just not sending somebody directly to a studio.
And all of this is with the goal of mine of preventing euthanasia and, of course, finding great homes for the animals. And with that in mind, I believe that it's been about a 10-year process of the drop in euthanasias. Can you share a little bit of that history and then where we are now?
Yeah. I just wanted to share that as I go over these numbers, on SIACA's website, on the About Us tab, there is a drop-down for statistics. The statistics start at 2013, and most recently we've posted the year of 2020. Just to let you know, for all of SIACA's dogs in 2020, it was over 91% of all dogs in our care that were either placed, returned, or went to a new start, whether it be a community partner or a transfer in a shelter. There has been a drastic change, especially in our intake of animals. Example, in 2019, SIACA saw a total of cats and dogs, 16,565. In 2020, SIACA's intake of both cats and dogs was 5,774. Wow. What this has allowed us to do is to implement and incorporate programs such as kitten care kits, our kitten foster program, re-implement the Big Meow program to help increase life saving.
Thank you. So I'd like to open it up for questions. I know some of you have been contacted by some members of the public regarding SIACA and the programs and services that they provide and how they're implemented, and anything maybe that Denise didn't come up with that you might want to know.
I actually, I do have a comment. I wanted to actually say thank you because I did have a number of people reach out to me, and I really thank you for taking the time to answer all of the questions I had, you know, when we spoke. So I really do appreciate that. So thank you.
I also had a couple of residents reach out to me, and I have 3 dogs, so it's been a great experience this past year, especially with having the 2 granddaughters at home and being homeschooled at this period of time. I don't know what the pets are going to do when they have to go back to school, probably sit by the door and wait for them to come home every day. But it's been wonderful. They have been tremendous support for both of the girls and myself. I love them. And also our other little one, Rosita, the little Chihuahua. But thank you. Thank you for all you do for our community. You know, I've gone a few times to your facility for different reasons, but thank you. You're always so gracious and always, you love the pets. And as much as I love my pets, I know you love our pet, all the other pets. And my heart does go out when I watch Channel 2 News and see a pet available for adoption. I'm like, oh, that. I go, can we have another one? And my husband goes, no, we're not having another one. But I adore that. And I also like that sometimes there's 2 together, and you also mention, you know, that you would like them both adopted together if they were, like, I guess, together,
Bonded, yes.
found together. So I think that's awesome. And I love your lander, and I love your mask. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a quick question. We have a few very active social media groups within Paramount. And what I do realize, we do have a lot of pet lovers in Paramount, because when somebody posts a picture of a lost dog, all you see is call Siaka, call Siaka, call Siaka. So I feel like our residents are educated. What is a turnaround time when they do call you for you to come pick up an animal?
So the turnaround time could vary. It could be that you have an officer 2 blocks away, or it could be that you have an officer 2 cities away. It also depends on the type of call that it is. Is it an injured animal that is in fact in distress and we need to get there immediately? Or is it that there was an animal that defecated on a neighbor's yard and we need to spend some time with somebody and educate them on cleaning up after their pet? So I wouldn't be able to give a definitive time, but there is urgency when we do know that there's either public safety at risk or if the animal is in distress or injured.
Other questions? Thank you for your time, Denise. We appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Our next item is resolution number 21007.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As we all know, the pandemic has taken a drastic toll on our communities. Unfortunately, as of today, 137 people in Paramount have lost their lives battling this horrendous virus, and countless others are still suffering the effects of the virus. In response to this, there is a nationwide push to support efforts that would declare a specific day in March as National COVID Memorial Day. And Mr. Johnson, our Community Services and Recreation Director, will go over the item. Dave?
Thank you, John. Mayor and council members. So as John mentioned, we've come to this 1-year unfortunate anniversary. There is, however, a national effort to recognize the loss that we've experienced over this time. It's coming from local cities, it's coming from nonprofits, and it's also coming from the U.S. Conference of Mayors now. So you have before you tonight the Resolution 21007. It directs the city to support the U.S. Conference of Mayors' effort to make the first Monday in March a National COVID Memorial Day, and directs staff to also support any other efforts that are also pushing for that same cause. This does not preclude the city-specific activities that we will take to address our own losses, and we're hoping to have that item before you at your April 6th meeting. Our recommended action tonight is to read by title only and adopt Resolution 21007. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are there questions? Not. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, Aguayo.
Moved by Vice Mayor Olmos, seconded by Councilmember Aguayo. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Quer-Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Okay, next item is neighborhood parking permit request.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council approved resident permit parking in a specific neighborhood in Paramount that we're going to be looking at. However, we did leave out a couple of homes that are just adjacent to this neighborhood permit parking area. We're now attempting to go back to you for permission to add these two residences to this already established neighborhood permit parking area. And our Public Safety Director, Ms. Adriana Lopez, will handle the item. Adriana?
Yes, thank you, John. Good evening, Mayor and council members. As John mentioned, this is a request for neighborhood permit parking at 8056 and 8102 Rosecrans. And I should say for, not at, and I'll go into a little bit more detail in my presentation. You may recall that in October 2020, the City Council adopted Resolution 20029, which amended the existing procedures for establishing neighborhood permit parking in the city. The new resolution allowed for staff to initiate requests for neighborhood permit parking in areas with an already existing permit parking program. In 2015, the City Council adopted Resolution number 1057, which approved permit parking for the 14300 block of Orizaba Avenue and the 8100 block of 144th Street. Just to make sure you understand that at the time of the adoption, the corner parcels at 8056 and 8102 Rosecrans Avenue were not included as part of this permit program. Here are some pictures. I wanted to include these pictures because it is a little difficult to explain the parcels. And if you look at your left-hand side, that is 8102 Rosecrans Avenue. And the front part, which would be Rosecrans, it is a business. And on the Orizaba side, you have residential units. And if you look at 8056 Rosecrans, once again, this one's actually a residential property with the address being on Rosecrans, but the driveway and the garage is on Orizaba. This map here shows you the existing resident permit parking, which is along the side of Orizaba and 144th Street. And the X in red is the business, and the business is not eligible to receive resident permit parking. As a matter of fact, that is the reason why we established resident permit parking for that area. And just to clarify, we would not be adding any resident permit parking area off Rosecrans. It would just be the Rosecrans addresses. And with that, it is recommended the City Council authorize neighborhood parking permit for parcels 8056 and 8102 Rosecrans Avenue, and which would be effective immediately, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Adriana. Are there questions? May I have a motion?
So moved. Quer Stallings?
Second, Aguayo.
The motion by Cuellar Stallings is to authorize neighborhood permit parking for parcels 8056 and 8102 Rosecrans Avenue, which will be effective immediately. That was seconded by Councilmember Aguayo. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Quer Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Next, we have a report to review of community services and recreation programming.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This next item is another educational item for the City Council. It's going to be a comprehensive review of all of the services that we provide through the Community Services and Recreation Department. There's several programs and services that come out of this department, and you'll see this is a good reminder to us of just how truly this how active this line department truly is. So first, we're going to hand it off to our Community Services and Recreation Director, Mr. David Johnson, and then he's going to hand it off to the Assistant Director of that department, Ms. Yesenia Guillen. So we'll start off with Dave. Dave?
Thank you, John, Mayor and council members. So I'm just going to do the first slide. I'm going to be kind of a little corny here, and then hand it over to Yesenia Guillen, our Assistant Director. So recreation is kind of a unique department. We provide a whole layer of services. So if you look at the city as a body, there's departments that provide the bone structure, the muscle, the sinew of the city. We consider ourselves the heart of the city. The Recreation Department provides these level of programs to connect residents to each other, to connect residents to their city in general, and we're very proud of what we do. And we often say our department will go from 0 to 100. We go fast, and we also serve a community from infant all the way to our most elderly resident. And so with that, I will hand it over to Yesenia Guillen to walk you through all the details of what we do.
Thank you, David. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. Like David mentioned, I'll be speaking to you this evening on what community service and recreation do throughout the year. Starting with the minor age population, we work very closely with partners like our independent youth leagues. We assist them with administration support, marketing, and field space. New this year, with Every Child Plays Youth Sports League Scholarship Program that is designed to provide supplemental financial assistance to families that may not otherwise be able to participate in recreational sports. As you are aware, we work very closely with Paramount Junior Athletic Association, our baseball league, girls softball league, a Paramount Youth Soccer Organization. Our West Coast Rebels is our tackle football. We also work with an organization called Friday Night Lights that brings our flag football league into town. We also work with a national organization, the YMCA, that offers a variety of sports through a normal year. The Y will be running their basketball program that's run out of our Paramount gym from ages 5 to 14 years old. Also new this year, the YMCA will be running a futsal league at Paramount Park. They also run an after-school program out of Mariposa Center from kindergarten to 8th grade. But unfortunately, because of COVID, this program did not run, and we hope to have them back this next school year. Our aquatic program that offers swim lessons as young as 6 months to seniors. I did want to mention that the YMCA still has group swim lessons that special needs kids can join depending on their level of assistance. But they also have a one-on-one swim instruction option for them. Throughout COVID, the YMCA continued to provide services like sports camps to our residents, following all LA County guidelines. Moving on to our instructional classes, we offer classes as young as 3 years old to 15, with a variety of classes like folklorico, Latin dance, jiu-jitsu, and cheer. We're excited to announce that coming in the fall, a local group, Latina Arts Foundation, will be having a mariachi instructional class and also offer a class for our special needs families. Moving to the largest division in our department, and also makes 42% of our budget, is the STAR After School program. This is definitely in partnership with our PUSD. This is entirely a state-funded program that is free to all K-8 schools. We run the after-school program immediately after school to 6 p.m. at each school site. We have, in a normal school year, over 1,600 students enrolled. This program has been running for 15 years. As you're aware, this year we ran this program a bit different. Because of COVID, the school district reached out and wanted us to assist those working families. So we came in and currently running STAR as an all-day program from 7:30 to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday at all 15 school sites. During the summer, we also run a summer day camp program that is affordable for our working families from hours of 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. during 8 weeks of summer, and it is run out of Paramount Park Gym. Also in partnership with the school district, we run HEY, Healthy Eating for the Youth, at all 14 school sites from K to 8. The program runs from 8:30 to 1. They get a free breakfast, a free lunch, and they get to do 2 hours of recreation with our city staff. And the food is provided by Food Services. This past summer, due to COVID, HEY was only operating at 4 school sites. So we're still waiting to hear from the school district and what we will do this summer. To continue with our minor age population, where we offer classes as young as infants to toddlers. In our free Mommy and Me and Daddies Are Welcome program, we offer a 10-week program that's run out of Mariposa Center. Similar to a Gymboree class, parents get to spend time with their child in a small setting. At Spanny Park, we run a free city-run program, our Homework Help program, run by recreation leaders that assist students with their homework. Students have access to computers and iPads. This program is a drop-in program, and students from grades K to 12 are welcome, and it's run Monday through Thursday from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Coming soon, and something you'll see in upcoming months and budget presentations, is our Adaptive Recreation Program. We have been working very closely with our special needs families in Paramount and recently assisted them in connecting them with our local Special Olympics of California organization. Paramount actually has been very lucky and have been very involved with Special Olympics that currently they form their own group. Because of COVID, they are currently doing activities virtually. Our department's also responsible for park amenities. We understand that we have very limited space at our parks, but we understand the need of our community. For example, developing more soccer space is definitely a need in Paramount. Recreation isn't recreation without special events. And even during COVID, we got creative and hosted events that were socially distanced or virtually, but we're hoping to bring our events back to full capacity in some form or shape. Next, we have our teen population. For the last several years, we created and have been running our Youth Commission, roughly of 15 or PUSD teens who care about the community and desire to learn more about local government. Our aim is to have a direct connection to our teen population and create more engaged residents. Something that you'll see soon in budget presentations for new fiscal year is teen programming. We worked with our youth commissioners and received input and what they want to see. Many expressed more opportunities to volunteer, having an opportunity to visit college campuses, having teen days, and in general, just having excursions for them. Throughout the years, Recreation has eliminated programming in this age group due to program cuts or just little or no interest. But we're hoping that we bring new and exciting teen programming this new fiscal year and we get our teens involved once again with our help of our youth commissioners. Recreation also oversees Paramount Education Partnership, or PEP, like many of you know, which is in partnership with the City of Paramount, Paramount Unified School District, Paramount Chamber of Commerce, where we get to work very closely with our PEP board that consists of local community members. The PEP Scholarship Program offers annual scholarships for students attending college, last year giving away 46 scholarships to students. As I mentioned, the city has a partnership with Long Beach Transit. Something that our teens take advantage is our Paramount University Pass, or PUP, which is a free card that provides the students unlimited travel on Long Beach Transit and the Metro Bus, routes to nearby campuses at Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Dominguez Hills, Cerritos College, and Long Beach City. Moving on to services that are provided to our adult and family population. Continuing with our park amenities for our families, Recreation is where you go to make a shelter reservation for your next family celebration. We continue to add more picnic gazebos at parks, fitness equipment, since this has been a very popular attraction in the last few years. A new park amenity, you might have seen residents walking their dogs on their leash. That is because you are not able to walk your dog. You will also see dog wasted stations throughout the parks that we allow dogs. If you're interested in renting one of our facilities, starting with our largest facility, which is Paramount Park Community Center, that are used for a variety of multi-use, for example, quinceañeras, sweet 16s, community meetings. With our smaller facility, like Mariposa Center, that is great for baby showers and gatherings. Progress Park is the city's most attractive facility for weddings and receptions, and many community group meetings are held. Our Clearwater building is great for baby showers, weddings, and showers. In our transit program, we partner with Long Beach Transit and Yellow Cab to provide transportations for our residents. Out of our PEP Center, that is over at Spanny Park, we offer a variety of adult classes in partnership with Cerritos College, Cal State Long Beach, and Paramount Unified School District. We have ELCL classes, parenting classes, a GED prep course. We also have a very active aerobic class that consists of our local service group, MUSA. Our department also works very closely with community organizations, for example, Latina Arts Foundation, Women's Club, the Lions Club, just to mention a few. This past year, we worked very closely with the Women's Club with their annual toy drive. Something new this year, we're working with the Peak Sister City to change the Day of the Dead Festival at Paramount Park and have them coordinate with Latinas Art Foundation to create an event at Progress Park where Paramount families and groups can create a multi-day celebration of Dia de los Muertos with the exhibition of ofrenda archers in the fenced outdoor area at Plaza. Continuing with new projects, we are currently working with Heritage Parade Committee to create the first nonprofit Paramount Historical Society. The Paramount Historical Society goes to encourage and inspires the exploration of the city's history through programs, publications, and collections that have shaped the city of Paramount. Our goal here is to eventually have a city museum and solicitate potentially interested members. Community organizations like these provide volunteer opportunities to our residents to give back to our community. We continue to seek opportunities to residents in this age group, which is at our youth and adult. I will share some new programming tonight, but once again, we'll see this in upcoming months during budget presentations. This age group in particular, throughout the years, we've seen a trend in Paramount, along with our southeast area and neighboring cities, of participation declining. I did want to explain, for example, our Paramount Cup. It started off with high interest and several groups forming. As time went by, we did see participation decline, but we're not giving up, and we continue to revamp some of these past programming and some new programming in this age group, actively promoting and marketing our programs, partnering with Paramount High School, with the local businesses, and our local Paramount Chamber of Commerce to continue our network. Let me start with youth sports. As I previously mentioned, we work very closely with the YMCA. They will continue to run a basketball league out of Paramount Park Gym, but also new this year, they're bringing a futsal league. We also have a competitive private swim club out of our own Paramount pool. Once again, our independent youth leagues offer a variety of youth sports. Moving to our adult population, we have identified that there is a need to increase adult sports options for them to participate in, and we're doing so. As I mentioned before, stay tuned in upcoming months for more details. We will bring back our adult softball league this spring. We're also working with a local group that is interested in beach soccer in Paramount. We will arrange for them to practice at Salud Park, where we currently have a sand volleyball court, and they will travel to a local beach city to play games. Moving on to handball courts at Roosevelt School. You will hear in detail about this item later by David. So I will continue. As LA County is reopening, we want to be ready to have these programs in place to start registration. Bringing something new to Paramount is Adult Futsal League at Paramount Park, and coming to your local park on Saturday mornings, join one of our rec staff to work out at our pop-up fitness classes at no cost. We continue to have open gym at Paramount Park. We get the opportunity to play basketball, volleyball, and trying something new, and it's very popular among our cities, is pickleball.
What was that?
Pickleball.
Pickleball. Okay.
You'll hear more in the upcoming months about it. And finally, getting to 100, our beloved seniors. Paramount Park Community Center, where, as we know, we run our EMP program. Our seniors get an opportunity to socialize in a variety of activities: bingo, loteria, choir, and painting. We also offer physical activities for them to enjoy, like Zumba, chair exercise, and walking club. Our seniors get to travel once a month as part of our monthly excursions. They'll go to Olvera Street, Mission San Capistrano. We also have monthly dances that are very popular and sell out very quickly. Our Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. We also host these dances during the day, but also have some in the evening for them to get a night out. In essence, our EMP program is the place for our seniors to build relationships, to get to socialize, get a healthy lunch, get a bit of physical activity, and overall a safe place for them. We also offer transportation to our seniors with our partner, the Yellow Cab. The city's transit program includes services in town as well as out of town medical uses. Our medical taxi program is designed for our seniors to help our seniors and those disabled residents to get to the medical and dental appointments. The Dollar Ride program is designed to help seniors to assist them to government offices, but they're also able to call and get a ride to the center at no cost to them. It is recommended the City Council receive and file this report, and this concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Yesenia. And after that, who couldn't agree that, community services and recreation is the heart of the city?
Thank you.
Okay, questions, comments? You guys are amazing.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody up here feels any differently. I think we were all as proud as we could be with what you managed to do with COVID and the programs and services that you were continue to provide. I mentioned it before that your online recreation services where you gave tips and ideas to entertain the kids, that was extremely helpful for me during the first couple of months while we got used to it, because my granddaughter, doesn't have other children in the household, so it was just her and I. But I will tell you, cleaning up that toilet paper maze was quite a chore.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Okay. With that, we're going to move on to the Dills Park Mini Pitch Pilot Reservation Program.
Alrighty, sticking with the Community Service and Recreation Department. As you know, the new mini pitch soccer court at Dills Park is just about done, and you guys all filmed there today, I believe. But before the City Council gave the approval to build this amenity at Dills, you asked us to come up with ways to mitigate any future parking impacts this could bring to the neighborhood. That was a major concern for y'all, as it was for us as well. The council has already approved of a neighborhood permit parking zone for a portion of San Carlos Street that's right adjacent to the park. Now, this is our next attempt at preventing parking problems. So here's Dave Johnson to tell you all about it. Dave?
Thank you, John, Mayor and council members. So this is a little bit of background here. Again, this all came to fruition through a U.S. Soccer Foundation grant that they received via the Target Corporation. So now we are able to present that we have a new mini pitch soccer court at the Dills Park on the north field. You see the location on the bottom left, that is the north field. The court is right adjacent to San Carlos Street. And then you see the image on the right. This was taken today, so you see the video equipment there. But the court is done. It's beautiful. It's got art. It has lighting. It has fixed soccer goals. It's a beautiful amenity for the park. But as John mentioned, council did bring up concern about that this lovely amenity might actually draw in people from outside the community, outside that neighborhood, and cause some parking issues. So our goal here is to try to prevent any parking issues to disturb that neighborhood. So we've come up with a pilot program for making reservations. The reservation time slots you can make to use that court would be 30 minutes to 1 hour. It will be available to families in that neighborhood. Players of all ages can play, as long as you're within walking distance of that court. So we'll have a defined area which people can make those reservations because they're within walking distance of that court. The permit will not cost anything. However, there must be an applicant who is 18 years or older who will be responsible for anyone using that court under their permit. And all reservations obviously need to be made in advance. So we're offering these reservation times Monday through Friday from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Again, 3 p.m. when the kids get out of school, 8 p.m. when the parks close, and then Saturday and Sunday from noon to 5. Now, so these courts will be open to the general public. People anybody from the neighborhood can walk over and use those courts. So if there is a reservation, staff will go on site 1 hour prior to the reservation, talk to anybody on the court, and say, look, in about an hour's time, we're going to have a permitted use. So it gives whoever's on the court, just using it generally, plenty of time to know that they're going to have to exit the court because there is a permitted use coming. And again, after the permitted use, the courts remain open. We will come back to review this after 3 months, but our hope is that we're going to have there, and we've actually had some conversations with neighbors in that area, and there's a lot of excitement about the court. So we will make sure this information gets out about the ability to reserve it, and we're hoping that the court gets reserved heavily by the neighbors in that area, and this will become really just like Dills Park is, and generally it is a neighborhood park for them to get to and use and have a great time there. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I recommend actually is to receive and file.
Thank you, David. Questions?
I have some.
Vice Mayor?
What is the actual time that it's open? It opens in the morning at what time?
Well, the park's all open at 6 a.m. approximately,
Okay.
whenever dawn is.
And close at 8?
Yes.
Okay. So how are they going to make reservations? Is it through a calling system, on the web?
You can call us, and we're gonna make the application available on the web that you can then just fill it in and email it back to us.
Okay. So going back to the mini pitch, so yeah, I went to go see it today, and it's really big. It's a good size. So you know how we've been talking about adult sports, and I know that you had mentioned that you're considering the adult sports at the
futsal courts at Paramount.
There you go, futsal at Paramount at the park. Is there a way that we could actually do an adult league for that area? Like if somebody wants to build an adult league for that area of residents, that they could play there?
As my first take would be, as long as it doesn't create a parking problem. So if it is neighbors, residents in that zone, absolutely.
And the reason why I'm asking is because I know the futsal is a 5-on-5, and that one's a 7-on-7. From what I understand, it's for bigger teams. So I don't know. It's just something to throw out there. If, like I said, if we're looking to do adult sports, and it was a 48% that came back on wanting soccer, are we able to do something in that area for those residents? You know, there's a lot of soccer players in that area, adult sports that.
Again, that I would just consider that just a normal reservation. Any group will be able to call us as long as, again, they are within that walking zone and someone's over 18, they make a reservation, they can use it.
Okay. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Just one moment, Laura. She spoke up first. Claire Stallings, go ahead.
I don't know if I should mention this now or mention it later, but after my segment of having the virtual, I came across 5 young men sitting at the bench by the fence. It was Max, Pancho, Nares, and Matthew and Diego. They gave me their name and phone number. Apparently, the resident at 6557, this is what they told me. That yesterday the wind blew down the fence. So their friends called them and said, hey, the soccer place is open. So I guess they, the group of 5 of them, went and did some yard work before they heard that it was going to be open so they could buy a nice soccer ball. So they all pitched in and bought a $50 something soccer ball. So yesterday they decided to, since the fence were down, that it was okay, that it was open. So they went ahead and played. The ball went over the big wall to 6557, and they heard from their friends, the man's not going to give you your ball. So they went knocking at the door. They couldn't get there was like a not chain link, a wrought iron gate, and it's locked. So they kind of went to the other lady because the first house wouldn't answer. So they went to the other one, and the lady was gracious enough to come out. I guess she's house sitting. And the boy started explaining to me, hey, miss, can you go talk to the lady? So anyway, to make a long story short, I went, they showed me where the house was, and it was right next door. So anyway, it's so interesting how these young men, the lady happened to come out, and she told me that the boys did come to her. She said it was private property, that she didn't know the man that lives in the first house what happened to the ball, and that she did give the boys permission to go on the property and look for their ball, and they couldn't find their ball. So then they left. And apparently the lady told them that the man doesn't like the park being there, first of all. He doesn't like the balls coming over because of the maybe possibility damaging his cars. So anyway, the boys were their main concern was getting their ball back. And their concern was, when was the park going to be open? So I told them, this is what I told them. I said, first of all, you see the fence down. What makes you think that you have permission to go on it? So I was just being a typical grandma. So, ay, señora. And then I told him, I said, well, you should have called Parks and Recreation. Well, we don't have the number. I'll go give you the number. So I gave him your number. So they were asking about reservations. So I could see that they were very concerned. And then they apologized to me for going on the park. Then they asked me, well, how are we going to get our ball back? And I said, I don't know. I said, I have a city council meeting. So I gave them my card. I said, you can go on YouTube and see me live, because I'm going to mention your names, and I'm going to mention that you spoke to me. So these guys are really, they're high school kids. All they want to do is play soccer. They're concerned about their ball. I really sympathize with them. David, I know we had an issue at Progress Park with balls. Is there any way you could speak to the residents, or maybe put some kind of net or some kind of, so it prevent the balls from going to the neighbors? And then one of the guys said that one of his friends, he wouldn't tell me which one, kicked the ball and ended up kicking it to the parking where the parking is on San Carlos. So anyway, I told him, well, how are you going to take care of that problem? Oh, senora, we're going to move that way. We're going to move toward the north side. But anyway, I thought I'd bring it up. And they're a young group, and they even gave me their phone number to call them and see if anyone could help them replace their ball. And when was the mini pitch was going to be open, and if somebody could go talk to the man at 6557 San Carlos Street.
Yes, Councilmember Cuellar Stallings. So there is already in the works. Public Works is handling it. There is, and there's budget in this year's mid-year budget that we put in. There will be a fence. I believe it's 20 feet high. It's netting. It's very similar to the fencing that you see that we installed over at Progress Park to block the balls. So that is already happening. So that should be done shortly. I will certainly, if since you have their phone number, I will replace their ball.
Thank you.
And in terms of the park opening, if there was no COVID, this would be easy. COVID makes nothing easy. So very much like our skate park, it is a facility that is hard. You can't close it. You can't control that space. So when at the most convenient time between us and Public Works, when that fencing gets installed or that netting gets installed, we do want to open the park. And we're going to certainly post the appropriate signage about social distancing and all that stuff. And we'll put a hand sanitizing station there. And proceed from there, and it'll be very much like the skate park where it's kind of open for use. In terms of them being able to get a permit or a reservation to use the court, that's going to be a little more complicated at first, simply because the current rules now under this red tier still require that you cannot have multiple families gather for something like this. We're still actually waiting for the adult and youth sports protocols to be issued. Those haven't come out yet for this latest round of red tier rules. So we're hoping that's a little more lenient. But so if a family calls us and says, we're all one household and I'm going to take their word for it and they want to permit it, they can. So I guess I can look over to the Public Works Director, Adriana Figueroa. Do we know when that fence is going up?
The netting?
The netting, sorry.
Yeah, we had the contractor go out there already to put the poles.
Gotcha.
The issue is the netting. They have that on back order. I don't know the date yet, but I will find out soon and let you know.
So as soon as we get that, and I'd love to meet with these kids because I'd love to walk them through the reservation process, get them a new ball, and we got to work on their shot skills because we got to keep that ball low and no big shots from the other side of the court trying to make it. It's that's what futsal and mini pitch is really about. It's more about ball control and short shots, not the big rainbow shots. So.
Well, yes, and then Pancho also mentioned the river walk. He goes, well, sometimes miss, the ball go that way. I said, I don't know about that. I said, let me work on this first.
They kicked the ball into the river?
Yeah, he said one of his friends kicked the ball
we really need to go out there. We're going to get an instructor and we're going to work on our skills.
So, but are you going to have a permanent fence on where you have the temporary fence? Are you planning to have it? No, it's just going to be open.
Yes.
Netting.
Oh, they're going to love that. Okay, well then, David, I'll give you Max's phone number, and you can speak to Macho, Nares, and Diego.
All right.
So anyway, and then they can talk to you about the neighbor.
Thank you, Councilmember Song. Councilmember Dean, you had a question?
Just real quick, I'm just curious as how many reservations you can make at one time. My curiosity is, what if you have a group of kids that can they make a reservation for the same date? I mean, the same time block every single day, or are they limited to one per week? How does that work?
We didn't want to put any restrictions on that because we want to see how it kind of plays out. If in fact there is a group that is dominating and occupying one time over the entire week, that becomes a problem because if there's other requests coming in. So we're just going to play it by ear at first and not have any restrictions and see how it works.
So they can block as many reservations at one time?
At this point until we see it creating a problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
I have a couple, hopefully quick questions, David. And the time frame, the length was for reservations was 30 minutes to 1 hour.
Correct.
That seems really short to play a game, is it? I mean, I don't know. I don't play soccer.
If you made me run for an hour, I would die. So.
Well, but you're not, what, 12, 14, 18? Is
No.
that normal? That's
But typically
normal?
for a soccer game, you're going to have about that length of time.
Really interesting. Okay. Secondly, you mentioned that if people are playing on the courts and somebody has a reservation, you'll go over and ask the people to leave who are playing on the courts.
Yeah, but they're going to get an hour warning.
So, because you said they'll go 1 hour before, so they'll give them an hour warning. Oh, okay. That's what I was going to say. You better post some signs so people don't get all set up and then you kick them off. I was thinking you were going to go an hour early, but then kick them off. But you're going to give them an hour to play once you let them know. Okay, fair enough. That's all I have. Okay, do I have a motion? No, it's a receive and file item. No further questions? We're good to move on. Okay, item number 9.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. This next item is a summary of Handball Paramount, along with a pilot program, similar to what you just heard, for use of the Roosevelt School handball courts on a reservation basis for handball play. We had planned to give the City Council report today on just the use of the Roosevelt handball courts. However, after further consideration, we've expanded the report to include a general overview and history of handball in the city. We hope that this presentation will provide you with plenty of information on how much we've done to try to accommodate handball in our community. And we think that the Roosevelt Handball Alternative will provide a local source for handball play and give us a good barometer for how the community will respond to this latest amenity. And we want to thank our partners at the Paramount Unified School District for allowing us to use their property for this purpose. So I will be handing it over to our Community Services and Recreation Director, Mr. David Johnson, once again handle it. And there are also a couple deputies that are going to speak on this item that are in the back. They've been patiently waiting to speak on this item.
We appreciate it.
All righty, Dave.
Thank you, John, Mayor and council members. The city is identified as a park-poor community due to decisions made long before us. So we have limited and small park spaces for a population our size. So our primary goal is always to increase park acreage where possible and to identify and modify our existing park spaces to adapt to changing needs and priorities. Any changes that we do propose also take into account input from our fellow line departments in Public Works and Public Safety. The expansion of Dills Park and the creation of Salute Park are examples where we have added new park space. The conversion of Orange Pool to a splash pad, Dills Park to a nature park, converting Village Park to a skate park, addition of lighting and removal of a ball field at All-American Park to create a defined soccer space are all examples of where we have modified our spaces over the years to adapt to those changing needs and uses. And as always, we look to find ways to improve the aesthetics of our parks. So the summary I'm about to present to you regarding handball and Paramount is an example of how we have modified a park space to improve aesthetics, remove a public safety issue, and create a new space for ever-growing demand for soccer facilities. So as I've reported in the past, we actually, prior to 2000, we had 3 handball courts, one at Dills Park, one at Paramount Park, and one at Roosevelt. The courts at Dills Park were taken down in 2000, and we were left with the Paramount and Roosevelt courts. So for the Paramount handball courts, which you see in the photo there on the left, there are 6 total courts. So a brief kind of history of what transpired there. In 2002, after dealing with a lot of conflict between the handball players and the spectators on the West Campus watching their kids play baseball, we made the decision to shut down the south-facing courts. Those were they were fenced, and we put storage bins in there to be used by our leagues. In 2012, so go fast forward to 2012, we started discussing the complete removal of those courts, not just the south-facing courts, but the north-facing courts that are still open. So in a 2012 public meeting, we had about 50 guests come to us. A lot of them largely not from the Paramount community, and they expressed to us the desire to keep handball in Paramount. We chose at that time to not proceed with anything yet, and part of that was due to the fact that we weren't really sure what to put back there, so we didn't want to take something away and then not have something to put back. We also met in 2014 with the local handball advocate, and again, the argument was we want to keep the courts and we'd like the south-facing courts reopened. And he talked a lot about the condition of the courts. We did take some action to improve the lighting there and repainting the lines on those courts. We did in 2015, however, during the summer, when we have a lot of activity on the park during that time. We surveyed day camp parents, aquatics parents, just people on the park. We surveyed even the folks using the handball courts. The general feeling on that survey in 2015 was the courts need to go. They're a problem. And so with that information, we did go to the Parks and Recreation Commission in 2015 with a plan, and that plan was to remove the handball courts entirely, to replace them with futsal courts, which would add a needed amenity on this park because, again, we do not have a lot of spaces for soccer, and this would give a very usable soccer space that's easily maintained. In 2016, we came to the council for authorization to proceed, and then ultimately in 2017, the futsal courts were completed. In terms of the issues that we've dealt with over the many years of these courts, and again, I'm not saying this to cast aspersions on people who play handball. I've been out to those courts at all times of the day, of the week, all times of the day. I've seen dads out there with their child playing handball, teach them the sport, and those are wonderful things. But I'm telling you, generally the behavior that we experienced was negative. I can tell you that I've heard from students who have to walk by or had to walk by those courts that they suffered verbal abuse. My own staff, particularly my female staff, suffered abuse. It was not a place you wanted to go. So residents, day camp aquatics who had a park back there were catcalled. It was not a pleasant experience, particularly for females. But more than that, there was a public safety problem. So we do have Deputy Delgadillo and Detective Howard here to kind of speak to what was happening. They've been here for a long time, so they can tell you the experience that they had, and again, why it was a public safety necessity to actually remove these courts and replace it with something else. So, deputies, if you come on up. Got a mic on there? Thank you, gentlemen.
Hello, how you doing? Detective Pascual Delgadillo. I've been Detective Howard. I've been here at the city of Paramount since 1999. First assigned a patrol. From there I went to the Special Assignment Officer, and then in 2009 as a lieutenant. In my personal experience, I've dealt with issues at the park specifically related to issues and complaints regarding narcotics use, narcotic sales, public intoxication, public urination, drinking in public, gang members loitering, parolees, probationers, sexual activity, calls for service, harassment of any women or young girls that were at the park, the back area, were attending functions related to the baseball diamond, as well as dealing with graffiti and, of course, assaults and robbery.
I'm Detective Delgadillo. Detective Howard, I'm sorry. I've been here since 2006. I was assigned patrol from 2006 to 2010, where after that I went to the Paramount assignment, the special assignment team from 2010 to 2017 when I promoted to detective. As Detective Delgadillo said, I've seen assaults. There's been urinating against that the east wall of the gym, sexual activity on the south wall of the gym, around that corner there. Alcohol, like you wouldn't believe. Any time of the day you go look in the trash can and there's a bunch of alcohol in there. As part of the SAO team, we dealt with a lot of Well, we, but people call quality of life issues. So they would call, and we got a lot of the cat calling and things like that, and the smelling of seeing people using drugs and smelling it as they walk by, or they're trying to go to the pool, they're trying to go to the gym. We set up operations a couple of times where we just kind of, one of us would sit in a UC car and just kind of watch, see what we see. And sure enough, we're looking at people drinking alcohol, people using drugs, people selling drugs. They would, sometimes they have them in the bushes, and somebody walks up and you see them come grab it. There was an exchange there and walk away. So we received quite a few complaints. It's just people not wanting to go back there. And the location of that just wasn't. We just couldn't monitor. It's just all the way in the back, so it just kind of helped hide them a little bit. It's just not a good place to have something like that.
Thank you. Thank you for your information. Any questions for the officers? Okay, thank you.
I have a question,
Go right
if you
ahead.
don't mind. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for your service. I really appreciate the job you guys do. I'm just curious, though, is there any difference between that location and Village Park Skate Park? Because there's the same type of complaints that I hear about, and even somebody ODing and overdosing and dying right in the park. So I guess my question to you is, what differentiates the two based on your experience? That one is still there, that isn't, there's a lot of complaints, and most people in that area don't even use the park because of the activities that go on. So could you just kind of differentiate between the two for us?
The skate park's it's kind of hidden as well,
Mhm.
just because of the bowl kind of thing you have there. So from the street, it's really difficult to see what's going on there. Actually get out and walk down there, take a look. I wouldn't walk in there either.
Yeah, it's not a place you can take kids for sure.
Cameron Park, I'm okay with it now, but I would can't see. It was, and it's kind of night is pretty dark there.
Paramount Park side was dark, poor lighting, great place to hide. They see you coming from any direction because you got to get to the back corner, and they can just have somebody on this side and see a black and white, and that's one on the other side. It's easy to catch them coming. Where the skate park, as long as you come up and get out of the car, you can make all the contact you want. You're not going to see the activity until you get inside the car. So it's just location, and even having access to it. I haven't personally received the same type of complaints that you're getting as far as the high volume that we got at Paramount Park. So it just depends on how we would address those issues.
Okay, thank you so much. I guess I'm just trying to figure out in my own mind why in one location we don't want it, in another location we kind of have it, and if it was in a better location, if we could alleviate a lot of those problems. That was my point in asking you the question, because I'm trying to say, okay, as opposed to just shutting it down, because I'll be honest, I used to walk home from Paramount High School. That's where I learned to play racquetball in those courts. So I know other people as well use those courts history-wise, not just what we're talking about. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page, that it's not so much the handball courts and who it brought, but as opposed to the location in which things happened there and we weren't really able to control.
Is it for Paramount Park would be both the location itself as well as the people that run it? The skate park is just a different animal.
Some people, it's a racquetball. My experience, time there, I can count on one hand.
Well, that was back in the 80s. That was a long time ago.
It's all happened. And that is just a huge problem. We had more complaints at Paramount Park just because it's next to where park is not so much. Most of the time, complaints up from children that they're got their full only thing to do there is basketball.
I think too that it's important that, you know, you guys are talking about the history of the handball courts and why they were torn down, but that's not the reason for why they haven't been rebuilt. Actually, the location, and staff needs to jump in if I misstate anything, everybody was okay with when we talked to public safety and parks and recs, and they even did something about water drainage and drew plans and everything. That location was okay because they felt you could drive by. It wasn't buried in the back of the park, so that was going to be suitable. So at least at the time, this is a new body right now, it had nothing to do with, we don't want them, we can't have them. It was the funding. It was just, you know, we couldn't afford them at the time, whereas some of the things that were put in were $150,000, $200,000. This was well over $500,000. And so we applied for several grants, and we just didn't get them. And then we had that Parks and Recs money. I'm sorry, I can't remember all the sources that came in, and we kind of set aside that $150,000, which there was great need for. You know, you remember the list they had that was this long of what they wanted to do. But so we conducted the survey. Do we hold on to this money and keep trying to add to it to build these $500,000 courts, or do we put it towards repairing the pool, you know, putting in another sports area? So that's why all the surveys were conducted. I feel confident for myself. I can only say how I would have voted towards that. But had the community said, yes, this is a priority, this is what we want, but it didn't even make the top 10 list. And so it's the public's money. I voted with what the public wanted, but it's not an issue about we don't want them. It's just money.
Trying to get background.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to offer.
I have a comment.
Any other questions for the officers? Go ahead.
I want to say back in maybe 2015, I was Parks and Recreation Commission, and it was brought to our attention that some of the parents were concerned at that time because they were taking their kids to basketball court, and then at the same time, they were using the back of the West Campus for soccer, and my daughter just happened to be one of them, one of the parents, and she would use that parking because it was more convenient. But after hearing comments and things, she said, you know, Mom, I'd rather go park illegal on 2nd Street or 3rd Street and park illegal because you're not allowed to park on the school parking. But I'd rather, because it's a permit only, correct, on 3rd Street. Yeah. And my daughter says, I'd rather go park over there instead of getting these young guys to say some things to me in front of my children. And my granddaughters were young then. They were very young. So then my daughter went ahead and had my granddaughter a couple years. This is when Parks and Recreation had the soccer program, the beginnings of it, and basketball inside the gym. But that was one of her main concerns. And then she said, Mom, I'm not going to participate anymore because I don't like the feeling that I get, you know, because I don't know what the intentions of these young men are. And it's not a very pleasant place to be. And then it depends on whether it was daylight savings or whether it was another time. So I don't know if you got any calls from some of the parents.
You're absolutely correct with that issue. That was the catcalling and harassment of the young women and their children. They were walking around back there like they would be on their events or
Yes.
We were, as the SAO, we hired the city to deal with several calls.
And again, for the council's edification, when the plans were drawn, to take into consideration all the things that law enforcement told us, all the complaints that we had from the parents, in the proposed plans, it was going to be an enclosed, gated operation. So staff would have to let people in, and it was going to be by reservation, so that if it turned out to be some kind of a problem, we had a lot more control over it. because that was at the time some of the discussion. Well, we don't want back all the problems that we had, and so it's okay. Well, we're going to eliminate some of them by putting it in a park that is visibility by driving by instead of in the back of the park, and then we're going to create a reservation system, and we're going to gate it where staff has control over it. So once again, we tried to deal with all the mitigating issues. What delayed the process, I don't even want to say shut it down, because staff is always looking for opportunities, was we haven't been able to find a grant to fund over a $500,000 amenity.
And that's more information on that's coming up in the upcoming slides. We'll show what we did, just exactly what you're discussing, Mayor. But before we get off the topic of the Village Skate Park, the money that you referenced that we received from the state through Speaker Rendon, we did use that money to install cameras
right
at Village Park and to fortify the fence alongside the railroad right away. It was a broken up chain link fence, so now it's heavy duty wrought iron, because that's what a lot of the problems that we were having. So the cameras have been installed, probably about 4 months, 5 months, somewhat around there, 6 months somewhere. So yeah,
More than that, we've also retrofitted the lighting to LED.
yeah, so the lighting's brighter there. So we have made improvements using the money
No, I
for that
understand
project. So just wanted to clarify that before we got off of that topic
Appreciate
where
it.
that money went to. So we'll go back to Mr. Johnson's report.
Thank
If
you,
the council
deputies.
has no other
Appreciate it.
Questions for the deputies? And
So,
here it is.
as-
Here's the plan.
As we kind of touched on already, we stayed in contact, or the handball advocate stayed in contact with us, and it did address that issue that, well then, if it didn't work at Paramount Park, where could we put it that it might work? So actually it was his idea to put it at Village. And again, Village is while it's a park, it's not really what I would call a family park. It has a skate area, has a basketball court. It does have a playground. I don't think that was the greatest choice. I've never really seen it used by young people, and mostly the teenagers. So it is a different kind of park. It's very small. It's very visible from the street, and it has easy access. So it's really not as easy to hide something there. So we, after meeting with him, and we did develop a design and construction plans that we would need for grants. And we spent about $44,000 to develop that concept plan and those construction drawings. So there was a serious effort here. That's a lot of money that we put into to make sure that we had a shovel-ready project. At that time, in 2019, what we had available to us were the Proposition 68 state grants. And at that time, the construction was about $700,000. It's been a few years. Construction costs have gone up dramatically. Concrete is incredibly expensive now. My guess is that project would be approaching about $1 million now. What was there were 4 competitive courts, a practice court, and as Mayor Lemon said, it was fully enclosed by a fence, so it could be a controlled space. Unfortunately, our grant was not awarded. We did not get the money from the state, and so that project still remains as a project looking for money. But in general, we wanted to kind of get a sense of what our community wanted in terms of sports, and the Mayor Lemons also alluded to this. So at the Friday night markets and at the Halloween festival, we did conduct a survey, and we isolated it down to resident responses. We ended up getting 592 responses. What our community clearly identified for us was they wanted soccer, they wanted slow pitch softball, and they wanted basketball. The futsal, you see, look at that low number there. I'm not concerned by that at all, because I think it's just that one, they've already identified they want soccer. Futsal is soccer. The problem is I don't think a lot of our community can identify what futsal was, and so you didn't see a high number on it. It really is just soccer, and had we used a different name for it, it probably would have done much better, closer to the soccer category. And actually we had write-ins for volleyball, which was nice to see. So obviously our most desired sports that we surveyed from our community was adult soccer, adult slow pitch, and adult basketball. The issues that we have with those adult sports, starting with soccer, is, again, because we have limited field space, and our emphasis has always been from the council to take care of the youth first. Most of that field space is occupied for youth leagues. In fact, we don't even have enough space. We obviously have to go to the school district to use their space. Adult soccer also is highly, highly destructive of natural turf. It requires an enormous amount of maintenance to keep it up. Again, our parks are multi-use parks. They're not dedicated soccer spaces. And so the maintenance of a park would be incredibly difficult if we had an adult soccer league. We have parks where, you go to the Edison property where Salud Park is. That is an artificial turf field. You will see adults play soccer there. It's not a park because of our contract with Edison. It's not a park we can permit. Soccer is actually one of the things that wasn't allowed. Now it will happen, but we can't permit it. We have a nice big field over. It's a natural turf field at Dills Park. The grant money from the state that was used to build that large field at Dills Park on the south end actually mandated that it be for passive uses only. So again, that's a park, big open space that we cannot put soccer goals there. Slow pitch softball is great, but again, we do not have a field or a park that can accommodate adult slow pitch softball. So we would have to then again turn to the school district through our joint use agreement and request field space at Paramount High School West, which does have that outfield depth that can accommodate adults. And then basketball is easily accommodated. We have a very workable gym, and we can accommodate volleyball there as well. It's set up for both. And we do actually offer basketball use of that gym during summer months and during break periods. So that currently is already happening. We have tried in the past, though, to run a 3-on-3 adult league, and oddly enough, we didn't get much response. But we do get people come out that just want to do shoot-arounds. We do, though, still have a remaining handball asset. It's at Roosevelt School. Again, obviously school district property, but so that gives us restricted access. So you see the property on the right. We did offer piloted weekend use from October 2019 to February 2020. We did actually call the handball players that our handball advocate had identified for us, and that we had met at meetings. And honestly, we called all of them and let them know it was open for use during these pilot days. And the results were not impressive. We had a total of 9 people come out over a 10-day period. So we again, not trying to let it go. I mean, we still want to keep trying. So what we want to do is make another effort to make handball accessible to our community. We know there are handball players out there. It is a small niche sport. It's not huge like soccer. So in FY20, we identified at Roosevelt School that we probably needed to do some improvements there. We got sidetracked by COVID, and in FY21, that money was put in the budget. So the handball courts at Roosevelt now have been sandblasted. We've moved off the many, many layers of paint that have been applied over the years, and it's a smoother surface. I met with a local handball player who lives in that area. We walked the courts. He says they are perfectly fine for recreational soccer. They are not designed for competitive, soccer. It's perfect for recreational handball. But again, it's not built for competitive handball, which is, our concern is to provide recreational spaces. So it's a good site. We want to do a reservation program. So again, we just don't have staff sitting there waiting for somebody to show up. So if somebody wanted to call and say, I want to use the courts during this time and the times that we're going to allow, we will go out there and make sure they can have access to the courts, and it's monitored. So this is a really great site. There's parking on that property, won't impact the neighborhood. It has restrooms right next to the courts. And again, because it is a school district property, it is a controlled space. Now the process will be similar. It's any age can rent the court, but you need to have an adult make that reservation for you to be the responsible party. It will be weekends only, simply because, again, this is a school site. We do have activity, obviously, with the school throughout the day, throughout the weekdays. We have Star there after hours. We have sports, youth league sports after hours. So what's really open to us is the weekends. We would say you can rent it, or you can get and again, no cost. You can get a permit to use those courts from 8 to 5 p.m. You just got to let us know. You can also do a reservation of an hour. And to your point, even with the mini pitch, if no one's reserved it, then you can do 2 hours in a row or multiple days during the week. It's up to you. So staffing will certainly open the gates to the courts. We'll walk them in. We'll make sure the restrooms are open and usable. And then we'll be there to supervise the courts. Once the permit and the reserve time is over, we'll have them exit the facility and we'll lock it up. If the council approves this, obviously we will do everything we can to get this word out to our handball community through our social media platforms. We're looking at creating a video to let people know about it. And then similar to the mini pitch, we would have a 3-month review period to see if it's even working. And then again, I've said it multiple times now, we will have to work with the school district to make sure that we can get a permit, again, to use that facility for this use. That concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions. And the action item is to receive and file.
Okay, we do have a speaker on this item. You want to hear from them before we have more questions? Or you want to do
One
a
question and
Go
it's
ahead.
short. Dave, on the reservation for 1 hour, if nobody else has reserved it after, can they stay longer, just like at the other location?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be flexible with that, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. We hear from, is it a call? It's a call, right? Okay.
Hello?
Good evening. This is Alice Yanez.
Alejandro Yanez, yes.
Hi, sir. We have you on live with the City Council to speak on item number 9, and you may begin.
Yes. Good afternoon again. I've been following the meeting. I wish handball people got some of the respect and dignity that the animals of stray cats and dogs got. But to push forward with some of my agenda, the 3 storage units that will place the south-facing handball courts. In the meeting in 2012 that we had with Parks and Recreation, you left out one very important part, Parks and Recreation. You closed the restroom doors. You maintained those restroom doors locked for more than 25 years. That created the nuisance and public safety that you keep speaking about. And I'm very disappointed with you, Officer Howard. You sat out there with me for over an hour on 3 or 4 different occasions, speaking with me while we were watching the handball players together. And I spoke to you about the issues that were going on. And you didn't mention none of the things that you talked about tonight. Very disappointed with you, Officer Howard. You sure have changed. To move on, after you closed the restroom door, you also never mentioned Parks and Recreation that we had a large homeless population that gathered around back there that had nothing to do with the handball players. Had the officers addressed the homeless issue, we wouldn't have had the issue that we had. But you entailed the handball players as we were the problem. Now, a couple commissioners or council members mentioned your daughters were scared of people looking at them or intimidated because they had heard comments that other people made. Yet, the record that you described here, none of it shows rapes or murders or any violent crime that occurred. As a matter of fact, most of it had to do with narcotics. It's very hard for a handball player to do both. Either he's selling narcotics or he's playing handball. Which one is it? Because he can't be doing both. So how is it that we got entailed into being both? You see, you're just using all these different reasons to try to throw our game, our sport under the bus. If you really took the time to ever get to meet with anybody that played handball, trust me when I tell you, women and children would not be at all assaulted or violated. It never happened in the 45 years that I've ever been playing handball. And none of that ever happened. That's why you've never reported it. Those are some of the points that I go and I keep repeating about. You only feed to certain narratives that you...
Mr. Yanez, you have 20 seconds.
Well, I only got 20 seconds, so everybody else gets a bunch of time and I get cut off. So I'll continue on with my fight.
Madam Mayor, if I could just have Mr. Johnson address the claim about the restrooms, because that does come up quite frequently. Dave, if you can go.
The statement is a bit frustrating. I I've been in the city for 29 years. I've been in the recreation for 20 years. Vince Torres before me was here for a long time. In my 30 years, almost 30 years, I have never known that door that he's referring to on the east side of the gym open for restroom use for anybody using the handball courts. It may have been that way 40, 50 years ago. Never in my time, never in the time of the previous director. So to say that we took that away is completely false. It was never, ever used that way in my 30 years. The other problem that is associated with that is, just like anybody else using the park, if you're there playing baseball or soccer or just walking around the park has a bathroom. It is a large facility in the middle of the park that is accessible to anybody using the park, no matter what you're doing. So to say that they didn't have an appropriate facility to go to is, again, completely false. It is, 90 yards away, just around the corner, and it's open throughout the entire time the park is available. So to say that they had to use the wall because there was no facility is false. The park has a bathroom. So thank you, John. It's just a comment that he keeps making that I just find very frustrating.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are there more questions for staff about this? It is a receive and file item, and I'm assuming that you are looking for us to give you any feedback about the handball courts that are going to be opened at Roosevelt, that we're okay, with the scheduling and moving forward with that, and the rest was informational, correct? So
Yes,
that's
Madam
what's
Mayor, yes.
before you. Anything, anybody?
Actually, I want to say something.
Okay.
I grew up here in Paramount, a lot of us. My brothers, I have 3 brothers, were always active in sports in the city. They played baseball, they played basketball, so I'm familiar with what went on in the courts back there, because a lot of times I had to go with them, being the oldest sister. I've heard that the reservation system, might not be fair, to the handball players. But if we look at all the other teams that we have from, PYSO, baseball, girls softball, they all have to turn in schedules of when they're going to practice to help figure out, reserve slots for them so it's fair. So I don't see that being an issue, but I feel that it's going to come up. Why? The other thing is, the city, nobody's saying no to, these, village skate park handball courts. It's just not now. That's the only thing we're saying, it's not. In fact, I think that we're a step ahead if you think about it, because there are plans. There are blueprints. So, we're a step ahead, but I think that the community of handball players, if 9 people show up, we can't justify, because it's been brought up, at a previous meeting that it is tax, our residents' money. Yes, it is, but how do you justify for 9 people showing up in 10 days? They need to meet us halfway and show that there is, a need for this sport. And for the comment to say, well, we've never been, maybe we haven't, but I'm sure that some of us know somebody that plays or has played. But that's like taking any other issue and saying, well, I know someone. That really shouldn't be, that shouldn't be the issue. Like, well, I know someone. Yeah, I can say I know a pastor in Linwood that plays handball in Southgate. But we need to show that there is a need for this. And there's people that obviously are very passionate about this. But it needs to be fair. So show up, make the reservation, make the reservation. Well, it's not fair. Well, all the other sports, all the other teams are doing it already. May look a little different, but there is a type of reservation system for all those other sports. So again, not saying no, it's just, it's not now. So that's really it for me. Meet us halfway, show up. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember.
I'm going to add on to that since you've opened that up, Councilmember Aguayo. You know how many numerous meetings we have had with this advocate sitting in Dave Johnson's office for hours and hours trying to figure out how do we meet halfway? How do we take that $700,000 and cut it out? Maybe let's not do lights. Let's not do a scoreboard. How do we just get cement up? So again, you know, for the residents to understand, you know, again, we didn't put this to the side. Mayor Lemons has spent many hours speaking to this individual as well. So again, and I agree with you, Isabel, it's meet us halfway. Let's figure it out. What does the community want? Thank you.
I agree with what you guys have to say. However, I will say this, perception is what a person's truth is. So if I'm an adult man or woman, if I want to go play handball, and I make a reservation for 1 hour and the city's going to open it for 1 hour and watch me play for that hour to go ahead and lock it up after that 1 hour, to me, as an adult, I don't want to be watched like that. I can see if complaints are being generated and there becomes an issue, then yes. But just like any other sport, who wants to be watched? I mean, I could use the analogy, if you watch somebody long enough doing something, you can find something wrong. And I'm not saying that that's not okay. What I'm saying is it's the perception. So how many people, adult men or women, are going to want to go, wait for you to open it, watch me while I play with my friends, and then lock it up? To me, that doesn't sound fun. And that's why I asked if for that 1 hour, if I have a reservation, if nobody's behind me, is it going to be extended? I think it's the perception of what it's going to look like is the miscommunication. And I think if we could do a better job of that, maybe, you know, your reality isn't so far off from what could possibly take place. But I'm just speaking for myself as an adult. I don't want to be under anybody's thumb as I'm trying to have a good time. Maybe that's how they're looking at it. I don't know.
I didn't hear all the comments. Was that one of the advocates' big issues, was the reservations? Because I didn't hear that in the comments.
Not today, but somebody mentioned about the reservation issues that
Because the issues that were mentioned to me had nothing to do with those things, and they were things we couldn't necessarily resolve. The advocate had told me they weren't going to play on wood. It wasn't adequate enough, and that there were concerns in just playing in that area of the city because some of the members had past affiliations there that they would not feel welcome. I think you know what I mean as a police officer. So they didn't want to go to that area of the city and play, and they didn't want to play on the wood courts. That's flat what I was told. And then I was told the paint was too thick, so we said, well, that's an easy fix. That's a few $100 or $1,000, not $500,000. We'll fix that for you, and we'll make it right. But I don't know in other sports when the rec leaders are there and they open up, they don't just sit there and watch them, right? They go do their thing and then come back and close it up and open it up. Do they do that for everything? I mean, what?
No, I mean, the expectation of the staff member is really there to protect the facility since it's a school district site.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that nobody else without a reservation enters the space, that they don't leave the park space or that space with the handball courts and enter the school district property where the campus is. That's, I mean, yeah, so they're not, I mean, I understand that that could be the perception. That is certainly not what I'd want my staff member to do, is just sit there and watch them. They're basically to, you know, go into the bathroom and make sure it's been cleaned. Come on out and make sure everything's fine, but just, you're there to protect that school district property to make sure there's no violations that would cause us to lose our access to it.
Yeah.
I think it's just the location, because part of handball and a lot of those type of sports is pickup games. Just kind of like basketball when you're playing in a park, you do pickup games, right? So if it's very limited on who has a reservation and who enters, you're not really being authentic to that sport. So I mean, in the future, I think that's, I mean, I understand both sides, but I'm thinking that location really isn't conducive to the sport itself. For children on a playground, absolutely. For adult recreation, it's not the prime location. I understand we're working with what we have, but just something to think about in the future.
And I think everybody would agree with you on that it's not the prime location, but, you know, in the many hours of meetings that I had, the analogy that I used is I said, look, I realize this is an old Chevy, you know, but drive it for 3 weeks, because that was the time that we opened it up for, and show me there's a real interest. If you can show me there's a real interest, the Cadillac's at the end, but you got to show us there's an interest. Drive the Chevy for 3 weeks so you can get the Cadillac. We didn't get one person from that group to show up in 3 weeks. So there has to be some effort to show that the desire is there, because it doesn't come across in the surveys. We made some personal phone calls and emails too from a list that was sent out. We did kind of all the legwork trying to get that enthusiasm built. We called them. We let them know when we were open. We told them we needed them to show up. We asked them to fill out the survey. So that's that part going back to you say meeting halfway. That's all we're looking for is if you're going to take over $500,000 of the public money, there needs to be more than one person who's standing up and saying this is, you know, an ultimate need in the community. I mean, I remember when the skate park was approved, I think we had 150 kids, you know, that came to 2 or 3 meetings, you know, and then they partnered in helping to get it built, because we discussed partnerships too. I offered to work hand in hand and help start a nonprofit to get the rest of the money. So just every effort, and we will continue to make efforts. It's not that, but it's not a lack of desire. It's simply a lack of money.
Right, and if I could just say one more thing, and I'm totally on board, I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree, but I'm just saying it's a double-edged sword when you say meet us halfway and get the numbers out there to a facility they don't want to be at, because let's just say the numbers do show up, and then what will the city council say? This is just hypothetically. Well, see, people showed up, they liked it, they used this facility. So you see what I'm saying? So they're kind of damned if they do and they're damned if they don't.
We wanted them to, so what's the
Right,
negative
so
on
I'm
that?
saying if I'm a handball player and I don't want that location, and I want my city to build me a court somewhere else, but I'm the city and I'm saying, well, go use this one first, so I bring all my friends, what's going to be said next? Well, see, you guys were all there and you enjoyed it and you had a good time, so why can't you keep using this location? So it's a double-edged sword.
But I think the communication was there on that, because those questions were asked. We said, no, that's not the point. The point is to show us some interest, that you say that there's nothing for you to do, you know, that you're getting into trouble because you're bored and you're going to cause trouble. Okay, so here's a facility. Show us there's a desire. Show us there's a need. That's all that we're looking for. And there were other ways, too. It was about writing letters, showing up for meetings, like I said, trying to help start a nonprofit, getting some money started. But there was never any give on the one side other than go build the $1 million court, the $500,000 courts. I don't want to hear another word about it because ours were torn down. And that was kind of as far as you could get, because there were dozen meetings with David, half a dozen meetings with Brenda, and myself more than I can count, trying to help. Let's make it happen. Let's work together and make it happen. But I don't think anyone sitting up here is going to, you know, say, yeah, write a check for $500,000 when you're not doing anything to show that we need to do that. There's no evidence that supports that.
And I'm curious, does Bellflower have handball courts or any of our surrounding cities that we're aware of?
Southgate has a court at Hollydale Park. There are some courts. Actually, there's a court by my house in Long Beach. I know, so Long Beach has a few courts. Bellflower has a small. It's not. I don't think it has the sides though. It just has it's more what you'd see on a school playground where there's just the wall to hit against, but there's not the sides.
They play at Southgate,
I know.
though, don't they? Is that where they go a lot?
Cerritos has a court too at Cerritos Park East. There's a court there as well.
Mm-hmm. And did they have the same type of problems we had? Do you know?
I'm not aware.
Did
no.
anybody look into like other cities and how they met the needs for handball?
I'm not aware. No.
Okay, that might be something we can look into, to how they got theirs up, who they used.
Well, most of these courts have been there for a very, very long time.
Yeah, years and years.
I'm not aware of anybody installing a new court anywhere in the Southeast.
Maybe we can kind of look to other cities to see if they have and how they got funding and how they went about it. I mean, let's just try to, research other avenues.
And that's always been the direction is, apply for every grant that's out there and, there's a desire. And like I said, our feeling back then is we already spent the money. We spent, I believe it was $50,000 to draw the plans, and then there had to be some drilling done to check some kind of drainage issue or something. So investment was moving forward all along. It just, didn't go. And then, just to clarify too, the issues is to back the officers up. Those discussions were had too about, hey, well, was there a lot of pot smoking, a lot of drinking and this and that? And the advocate told me, oh yeah. And I used to yell at those guys all the time, tell them, you can't do that, put it away. So it was a regular part of what was going on, which is why the advocate even thought it's a good idea to lock them up like we were going to do over here at this park. Put the gates up, make it reservation. That's a good idea because me, myself, I don't approve of it, he said, but I couldn't stop it from happening. So it was happening.
Yeah, it does happen. It happens at Village Park too.
Yeah.
One quick question, Peggy.
Okay,
I have
so
one quick question.
go ahead, Velma.
David, can you clarify, Councilmember Gillen said that if you made reservations for 1 hour and there's nobody coming in for the next hour, so they're not able to stay for the extra hour, sir?
No, I mean, it's a good point that the council member brought up. So yeah, I would want staff to be flexible to a certain point that, yeah, I mean, if you want to play another hour and there's nobody has a reservation, that's fine.
Okay, thank
But
you.
I wouldn't want it to go, well, we want to play for 5 hours.
Why?
Well, after a period of time, you'll be able to gauge too.
Yes.
If it ends up getting use, you'll be able to gauge what's going on and maybe make longer court times or, things like that. As soon as
Thank
you
you.
see what kind of usage it gets.
Right. I mean, the point would be that they go out there and play, that
Yeah.
that there's, you don't break for an hour and just chat. It's not a place to do that. It's a place to go actively play the game. And yes, we would have to actually, very much like the mini pitch, we're just going to have to gauge, see how it gets used.
Okay. Well, thank you for the report. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. If there's nothing else, we're going to move on to item 11, rejection of bid for the renovation of city bus shelters.
Actually, we'll be on item number 10, Madam Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, I dropped down one, huh? That's what I get
Oh.
for taking off my glasses. General Plan Annual Progress Report.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council, this is a report that we need to provide to you each year. It's a requirement that's in the California Government Code. So we're providing a progress report on the previous year's activity and how that relates to the work that we've done in the community with specifically our general plan. So I will now turn it over to our planning director, Mr. John Carver, who will walk you through the item. John?
Thank you, John, Madam Mayor, and council members. This is a general plan annual progress report for calendar year 2020. And by way of background, every city and county in California, excuse me, is required to have a general plan. This plan is a long-range planning document that serves as a guide for development and land use. The state requires that an annual progress report be given to the City Council, the Governor's Office of Planning and Research, and the California Department of Housing and Community Development. The report details the progress of implementing the various elements of the general plan, again for the year 2020. There are 7 elements in the general plan, and they include land use, economic development, housing, which we're undergoing an update right now for that element, transportation and circulation, public facilities, health and safety, which we're also undergoing an update on that element, and the resources management. And the new element that we're working on also is the environmental justice element. So land use includes the adoption of a number of zone changes in the year 2020. We also operated the home improvement program, the commercial rehabilitation program. We did several zoning ordinance text amendments, and we're working on new gateway signs into the city to provide some identity. Looking at economic development, the city continued efforts to attract new businesses and to retain existing businesses. The city has implemented numerous programs to help businesses during COVID, including a business recovery program in Paramount El Fresco. Looking at housing in the year 2020, 45 units were approved, and this included 33 accessory dwelling units. The North Paramount Boulevard Gateway specific plan is underway. Among other things, this plan will detail the type of housing units that will work best north of Rosecrans Avenue. And SCAG has recently finalized the sixth cycle regional housing needs assessment, and Paramount has a number of 364 units. Looking at transportation, the city continued to provide a fixed route transit system, elderly nutrition program transit services, college transit services, and dial-a-ride and medical taxis. The city also continued to work on a bicycle infrastructure plan and also planning for the West Santa Ana Branch Light Rail Station. Looking at public facilities, the city continues to work with the Paramount Education Partnership. Regarding water, work continues on Well 16. Looking at health and safety, in the year 2020, the city worked diligently through the COVID crisis in numerous different ways for Paramount residents and businesses. We continued to ensure that the city was prepared for disasters, and we continued our strong code enforcement efforts throughout the city. And with that, that concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. Questions? Now, this is a receive and file item, and we have so done. So now we'll move on to item 11, the rejection of bid for the renovation of the bus shelters.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As part of the current budget, the City Council approved a capital project to replace some of our bus shelters throughout town. The new shelters would have a brand new design that really mimics the style of the bus shelters that you see in the downtown in front of IHOP and in front of Carl's Jr. Unfortunately, after going out to bid, we received only one bid, and it came in much, much higher than the engineer's estimate. So we're going to go back to the drawing board, and we'll bring it back to the council very soon. Adriana Figueroa will tell you a little bit about this and what's needed. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, as John indicated, our bus shelter renovation project, project number 9153, was included in the city's fiscal year 21 budget. The project was advertised in February and bids were open on March 4th. However, only one bid was received in the amount of $865,000. The design engineer's estimate for construction was around $580,000. Pursuant to Public Contract Code Section 21006, staff is recommending the rejection of the bid and subsequent re-advertisement of the project. Staff will bring a recommendation for award at a future City Council meeting once new bids are received and they are examined. So given that, it is recommended that the City Council reject the bid and direct staff to re-advertise the project. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Adriana. Do I have a motion or is there discussion?
So moved.
So second.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get any of those.
So moved.
Olmos and Cuellar. Moved by Vice Mayor Olmos, seconded by Councilmember Cuellar, that we reject the bid and direct staff to advertise a request for bids for the renovation of city bus shelters. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. On item 12, John, you have something to share with us?
Yes, Madam Mayor, we'd like to continue this item to a future date. However, we did have two public comment emails in regards to this that we will read into the record. I believe there are two now, right? Not just the one. We had one, now there are two.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
So go ahead and read those, Heidi.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. The first comment is Felipe Rojas. My name is Felipe Rojas, and I am a resident of Paramount, California. I am writing to oppose agenda item number 12, proposal from Wilden Engineering to provide professional engineering design services for Alondra Boulevard widening project, city project number 9136. In the year of 2021, we should recognize that widening a street or even a highway induces driving and increases congestion. We should not be widening any more streets while making walking and cycling harder, especially for those who reside here and rely heavily on public transit to go places. 95% of the city's residents are people of color, and in LA County, 7 in 10 people rely on public transit. This city has no dedicated bike lanes for cyclists on any major city street. 0. This makes cyclists choose either to ride on the street with vehicular traffic, hoping they are not hit by a careless driver, or ride on the sidewalk while risking the chance of being cited. We should invest in complete streets for all major streets that run through this city. Streets that include dedicated bus lanes for all public transit buses passing through the city, sidewalks with plenty of space for pedestrians, bus shelters on all bus stops, and dedicated bike lanes for cyclists. I urge my council members to reject agenda item number 12. Any improvements on any major city street should also consider the needs of pedestrians, bus riders, and cyclists. Thank you. The second comment is from Anahi Mendoza. I am a resident of Paramount. I live in 72nd Street, right by Hunsaker, and I saw that there is a proposal to add an extra lane to Alondra Boulevard. I am not interested in doing that at the moment. I have realized that the money for this project can be utilized for other projects, but not widening lanes. I would prefer if streets were paved. I live right across from North Long Beach, but my street also serves Paramount residents and is filled with potholes that continue to get bigger. All, if not most, of the streets around 72nd Street that are Paramount streets have recently paved roads. I approve the installation of the new access curb ramps and the constructing of sidewalks to better serve our Paramount residents. If my comments regarding the widening of Alondra Boulevard are not enough to convince the City Council, at least put this into consideration. The traffic barrier by McDonald's on Garfield and Alondra is also not in the best location. That needs to be changed. People constantly drive the wrong direction, eastbound, just to enter McDonald's driveway. That concludes the comment.
Okay, so you need a motion to continue the item, John?
I would recommend, Madam Mayor, that you make a motion to take it off calendar, and that way staff can bring it back to you.
Okay, I need a motion to take it off calendar.
So moved.
I heard both right there, so
Okay,
I've got
both at the same
moved by Councilmember Gaines, seconded by Vice Mayor Olmos. Can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Next, we have comments and committee reports from council members. And eeny, meeny, miny, mo. We'll start with you, Velma.
Oh, let me get my notes. I already spoke about my little friends I met today, so I don't have to speak about that anymore. Okay. Well, my husband's going to receive the second vaccination tomorrow, so he's very happy.
Yay!
And thank you, FEMA, for coming back to the city of Paramount. And thank you, residents, for saying all the positive comments about how well it's been organized. Thank you for everything that you've been there, and we're still making appointments. I received one today for a family member, and thank you, David. You and your staff and Yesenia have really worked hard this past year. Thank you for everything you've done for our city. I greatly appreciate it, and I'm sure everyone else does. And I did see on Facebook about our Congresswoman Robal and the art contest, and I don't know how that's going to work through the schools, because I know usually some of the Paramount High School students, David, are usually involved in that. Do you have anything to say about that, sir?
Yeah, it'll work very similar to how it did last year. The kids just have to fill out the application and submit their artwork, so it doesn't have to be in person. So it is for high school students only. We've already asked the district to make sure that they post it on their Schoology sites, and then we'll post it on our platforms as well. And I'm sure, because I think Paramount's won the last 2 years.
Yes.
So we have a very active arts community here, and I expect them to win it again.
Yes, thank you. And we have an excellent art teacher at Paramount High School. So anyway, thank you, everyone. Good night. And I love our community. I love the city of Paramount. And thank you, residents, for everything you do for us, too.
Thank you. Councilmember Guillen.
I'll make it short. This has been a long meeting. 2 phone calls in regards to TAMS and the line backing up, traffic hazards, and this is the 3rd time I've mentioned it. If we could get a follow-up on what's being done about that. And then I sat on a 91-605 meeting a couple weeks ago, and there were a lot of callers that called in regards to the widening of the 605 for the same reasons that these two people called in too. I guess there's a lot of planning and research that shows that if you widen a freeway or you widen a street, it's actually causing more traffic because you'll have more people coming to use that thoroughfare. So just something to think about. And then also, I just wanted to take this opportunity to wish everybody an amazing Easter Sunday. And, you know, with things opening back up a little bit, hopefully you can enjoy it with I think it's 3 households of family. So happy Easter, everybody.
Councilmember Guayo.
First, same thing with the vaccines. I actually had my daughter's, one of her best friends, she said that her grandparents were just super excited that, I mean, they're going to be going to get, you know, their second vaccine, and it was done through the city. So it's a great feeling, you know, to see that people are taking advantage of the services. And, you know, David, you and your team, growing up here, you know, I think that I took for granted the work that Parks and Rec has always done. But now that I get to see a glimpse of it, I mean, I'm blown away by every event and every activity. And I know that, you know, the other departments, you know, play their part, you know, in all of it. But I think that the last year and, you know, pretty much 3 months or so, I really think that, yes, definitely your team has been the heart of the community and just giving people hope, you know, that, you know, not everything is canceled. You know, we're still going to do these things. They're going to look different. But I can't imagine the thought process and those, we're going to make it work. We're going to figure it out. You know, let's just get it done. I can imagine those moments, and at the end of an event, that relief and that all of a sudden, okay, this was exhausting, but we got it done. That sense of just really pride, you know. So really, you know, thank you, you know, you and your staff for everything you guys have continued to do for our community. You know, it is appreciated.
Thank you, Councilmember Guayo. Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes, I'll be very quick. I just want to welcome the new cohort of youth commissioners. Very excited to see them, and I'm excited to see them come present to us of what they're doing. I did reach out to a couple businesses. I did reach out to Bianchi about them. They're actually reopening tomorrow. Wednesday's their date. And I reached out to a couple restaurants who are very excited about having the indoor experience back. So it was nice to see them enthused, cleaning, getting ready for the patrons to come in. And lastly, I just want to thank all the residents who reached out to me and who participated in the moment of silence for 137 residents who had passed away from COVID. To all the families, you'll continue to be in my prayers and thoughts. And that's all I have.
Thank you. I don't have any comments. John, staff?
Yes, I do have an introduction. Sitting patiently in the back is our brand new lieutenant. Why don't you come up here to the podium? This is Lieutenant Omar Camacho. And Lieutenant Camacho joined the Sheriff's Department in 1999, so he has 22 years of experience on the Sheriff's Department. After completing the academy, he was assigned to Men's Central Jail, and then after that, he went to the field patrol at Norwalk Station, where he patrolled the cities of Norwalk, La Mirada, and the unincorporated area of Whittier County. He spent the majority of his patrol time as a field training officer, and also was assigned to the Narcotics Bureau. And during Lieutenant Camacho's patrol years, he practiced proactive problem solving to reduce crime. He showed a commitment to the residents in his cities by gaining their trust and ensuring their safety and quality of life. Due to his work in the community, he was given numerous commendations and Deputy of the Year awards. In addition, he received certificates of recognition from the U.S. Congress and the County of Los Angeles. Lieutenant Camacho promoted to the position of sergeant in 2015 and transferred to Century Station, where he served as a field sergeant. After approximately 3 years, he transferred to the Internal Affairs Bureau, and he was assigned where he was there, and he was assigned until he promoted to lieutenant. Lieutenant Camacho was transferred to Lakewood Sheriff Station, where he served as the early morning watch commander, so he's much happier to be on daytime schedule, I bet, than being in the middle of the night. Prior to being selected as the Paramount Service Area Lieutenant. So we had Adriana Lopez and I interviewed 5 lieutenants for this position, and Lieutenant Camacho stood out. So we want to thank the council for approving the additional funds to have the lieutenant back to Paramount. We did have 2 sergeants, so now we will have 1 lieutenant and 1 sergeant. So, Lieutenant Camacho, if you want to say a few words, just hit the button there in front of you, press the mic on, and say hi to the council.
First of all, thank you for introducing me. I'll make this quick, but first I want to start off saying thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be here as a service area lieutenant and continuing with this great partnership the LA County Sheriff Department's had with the City of Paramount. Our mission's going to continue to be the same, to deliver top quality service to the communities we serve, specifically here in Paramount. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Just a couple more things. We have been made aware of residents smelling an odor in the northwest end of town on social media. We even spoke to a resident about this who called us. He thought it was sewer related. Apparently, LA County Public Works did a sewer flushing around this area, so we're thinking it's not sewer related. We also understand that the fire department and gas company have been called out on a couple of occasions. Both have confirmed that the smell is not natural gas. I'm mentioning this because I just want to encourage all the residents to call 1-800-CUT-SMOG if you do smell odors. We put this message out on social media today. We also plan to have a special staff member canvass the area to sniff out the odor and trying to detect where it's coming from. And we hope to get this done in the next week or 2. So just a reminder, as was mentioned earlier, hexchrome is odorless, so we know that this odor is not related to hexavalent chromium. The last thing, speaking of vaccine, 1,000 of the second shots will be given out this week, as Councilmember Cuellar Stallings mentioned, at Paramount Park. We had 200 first shots that were administered last week for Paramount residents and workers. That was at the Downey location, the LA County site there in Downey. By way of also this, we only had 24 hours to fill all of those slots, which we were able to do. And then this week, we were notified that the county had 50 additional shots for us at the same location. Again, only had 24 hours to fill those slots. This time it was a little bit easier for our staff because now there are more categories that have opened of people that are eligible for the shot. Now, all that does not include all the clinics and pharmacies and medical providers who have vaccinated our residents. The numbers I just gave you were simply the ones that we have helped to get. Just a point of clarification too, the county recently updated their website on how many Paramount residents and all residents for each city have been vaccinated. As I mentioned to the council in an email, the last time was February 20th. That was the last update. But just earlier today or yesterday, we noticed that it was updated. Now it's as of March 8th, which was still 8 days ago, but it's a lot better than February 20th. And I want to note that the vaccination rate for Paramount went from 7.4% on February 20th to 14.7%. So it doubled in 2 weeks. So that's a good sign. We're heading in the right direction to get more people the vaccine. And that concludes my comments, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you, John. For all of my colleagues, for staff, and for all of our residents, have a wonderful and blessed Easter holiday, and we stand adjourned until April 6, 2021 at 6 p.m. Thank you.